Greetings, one and all, to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator actively alienating everyone in both the analog and digital world. Well, welcome and good evening and wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8. Don't you worry, little missy. Everything's fine. But everything wasn't fine. We're searching for them real good. Noises I don't know how to make. He didn't say a word about having found any new clues. In other words, there had been no progress. That sure was an annoying way of beating around the bush. In any case, it really has gotten late. All of you youngsters should get on home and get some sleep. It'll be bad for your health otherwise. Yeah. K-Chen, Rena, get some rest. These guys get our tax money, they'll handle it from here for us. We're taxpayers too, you know. It's like we're drinking our own piss. I really wasn't in the mood for laughter. In fact, Oshi-san was the only one laughing like an idiot. Okay, seriously, please do your best. Let's go, Keiichi-kun. It'll be harder to wake up tomorrow if we don't. Yes, that's right. I can always bring you home if you need. Kuma-chan, why don't you bring the car around? No thanks. We came on our bicycles, so... No need to worry. We came in a truck. We'll just throw the bikes in the back. We may have gotten pretty sleepy, but we just needed to ride home at this point. I didn't want to bother the police like that. Rena, however, nodded. Okay, if you insist, we'd appreciate it. It's probably safer than if we went back alone. When I thought about it carefully, I realized that Rena's idea was extremely rational. Now that it's decided, let's get a move on, shall we? Okay, bye. Good night. Rena, K-chan. Yeah, Mi-chan, you go to bed soon too, okay? Good night. I waved my hand as well, saying goodbye. Rika-chan and Satoko still hadn't been found. My unease, however, was steadily being pushed away by sleepiness. Rena showed the police where our bicycles were, so that Oshi-san could haul them up into their truck. He prompted us to get into the back seat. I could hear the springs squeaking as I sat down onto a seat that would normally hurt my rear end, but at this point it was very soft and was more than comfortable enough for me to fall asleep on. Ladies first, we'll start with the little Mrs. house. Where do you live? Thank you. My house is, well... Rena's voice slowly grew distant. I felt myself being sucked into the void of sleep. Hello? Mabra-san, are you asleep back there? Huh? When I came to, it was quiet. The car was parked. Oshi-san was giving me light slaps to the cheek. It didn't feel good at all, so I woke up immediately. No, sorry, I just fell asleep. Something was being held right underneath my nose. A clump of metal? It was a can of coffee. It's lukewarm by now, but coffee au lait is good even at room temperature. Thanks. I mechanically took the can and opened the pull top. The feeling of the warm, sweet liquid going down my throat awakened my sleepy mind. When my drowsiness receded, I started wanting to know why the car was stopped and why I was offered coffee. Oshi-san, who had been in the driver's seat, had at some point moved to the back. Suddenly I had a very bad feeling about this. It reminded me of the questioning yesterday at the library. It was already too late by the time I realized I had made a mistake. It's fine, we already discussed it with Shion, and Shion said it was okay to talk to, and it's not like I can ask Rika's opinion anymore. Normally I'd be like, I should ask Rika her opinion on this before talking to this guy, but that's too late now, so I might as well talk to him. Today of all days, it didn't look like I would be getting away. I had a feeling that Ueshi-san heard what he wanted to. He wouldn't be letting me go. I had a feeling that until Ueshi-san heard what he wanted to, he wouldn't be letting me go. Please don't get all formal on me. I'm not going to eat you or anything. Mabra-san. Ueshi-san gulped down the last of his coffee, then stretched wide, showing me how relaxed he was. That, however, only served to heighten my nervousness. What do you need from me? Need? Oh, no, nothing really. You're going to evade the question at this point? What a deeply unreadable man. Well, I don't need you for anything. I just thought you might need something from me. Mabra-san, I don't. I don't need anything. Oh, I see, really. Are you sure there's nothing? There was only one side of the door in the back seat of this truck. In other words, my only exit was blocked off by Oishi-san. I couldn't get away. I could only limply hang my head and maintain my silence. Oishi-san, despite my reticence, relaxed and began smoking a cigarette. The cries of the insects outside seemed to be growing longer and longer to an amount of time that almost seemed infinite. Here I was sure that you had something you wanted to talk to me about. Oishi-san exhaled a puff of smoke. The windows were open, but the tobacco smoke still accumulated inside the vehicle. How much did Oishi-san know? What did he know? And what did he want to hear from me? If finding out the truth made you disappear, then if I told him, would Oishi-san disappear too? Yeah, but to be fair, we don't care if he disappears. I know that sounds horrible, but it's not like he's our friend or relative. And it's not like I really feel indebted to him. And also it's kind of his job to take on this kind of risk. Heck, he's already probably in this risk, the fact that he's, antagonizing the city to begin with. So honestly, literally there is nothing I could do or say to this man that would put him in any more danger. I don't think in any timeline. Though there is a timeline where he goes insane and goes to the festival and starts shooting everyone up with a gun before the Watanagashi. I forget what timeline that is. Welcome to Higurashi, the story where it's a looping story. But each iteration of the story, somebody goes insane for a different reason. It's not even the same reason every time. And most of the time, the person doesn't even know what's going on. Or they do, I don't know. Just saying everyone gets it's musical chairs of who's going to become the psychopath. And there's times where some people act out very violently out of paranoia that other people are doing certain things, but in other timelines, the person who acted out of violence and paranoia, they don't. They decide to be more reasonable. It turns out the things that they would have acted out violently and paranoia to, the other people really were doing. So even in the timelines where you you were just overreacting, well, there's another timeline in the story where you really needed to act like that, or else, I had a feeling that I didn't need to worry about that in his case. Yeah, so I'll just say, yes, there's a chance, but one, I feel like he's already in more danger than anything I could possibly say or do. And two, I don't really care. Also, he's a police officer. I wonder how all this ended up happening. Oishi-san addressed me in a low tone as if he was talking to himself. How this ended up happening? How the hell should I know? That was what I wanted to know. You know Jiro and Tomotaki-san and Miyu Takano, right? I know you do because I personally witnessed you with them during the festival, along with Shion Sonozaki-san. Do you know how Tomotakis are doing now? They've actually, passed away. They've met very untimely deaths. Oshi-san probably played that card in order to surprise me. However, I already knew and didn't display the extreme reaction he expected. What's this? Did you already know? Unfortunately for this question in particular, remaining silent was the equivalent to saying yes. Oh, so then did you also know the reason Tomotaki were cursed like that? People are saying that apparently they went to some forbidden building. The storehouse ritual implements. the forbidden shed sealing away Hinamizawa's blood-stained past, where the mistake that started it all happened. Do you know about the rumors that say the mayor and Rikafude were cursed because of that too? That would mean it was mine and Shion's fault. He was right. As soon as we revealed what we did, what did they call it, a ritual storehouse? They're saying it was bad luck. The lock to it had been replaced by a simpler one, which made it easier for the thieves to get inside. What? This was news to me. Until last year, it apparently had these big bars and a huge padlock on it. I mean, you know, ever since the priest and his wife passed away, Rikafude-san has been managing the place, right? Apparently she talked to the mayor saying she wanted them replaced with a lighter, more simple padlock because the bars are too heavy for her. I didn't know anything about those big bars he was talking about, but the lock had certainly been a simple one. It was a pretty cheap one, too, and it didn't really fit my impression of what a lock for a place you'd store something as important as ritual implements. Here's the thing. If you guys are going to be pissed off at her for wanting the simpler lock and not having the bars and to make it easier for other people to break in, then how about you guys make it easier for her to get in and out of the building? If you guys are going to bitch about, like, her making it, you know, more accessible for her, but you're like, oh no, other people break in. Well, if you have an issue with that, then you guys need to be helping her in and out of the fucking building. Otherwise, she wouldn't have needed to make it more, I don't know, accessible to someone who doesn't have, you know, massive amounts of strength. Rika-san is a small girl. After all, the bars were heavy with rust, and they must have caused her a lot of trouble, so the mayor hired a craftsman and replaced the lock with a simple padlock, so she could open it with a key. And that's the thing, if they're like, oh, they're upset about her doing this, then you know what? Then whoever's upset with her should have just been helping her in and out of the fucking building. So, how does that mean it was bad luck? Here's what I'm saying. Thieves couldn't get in with the old tight lock. The mayor and Rika-san replaced it with a cheap lock and a key on their own, so thieves broke into it. Apparently, that's how it's going down. That explanation's a bit... Letting that slide, certain members of the village delivered punishment upon the thieves who stole the ritual storehouse, as well as the mayor and Rika-san who changed the lock. At least those are the whispers that seem to be going around. Mabara-san? What do you think? What do I think? I don't really know what you mean by certain members of the village. Are you familiar with the three families? Representatives of each of them gave short addresses of the Tanagashi Festival's opening ceremony. Did you see them? I came partway through the festival, so I don't really... Three families are the three oldest families in Hinamizawa. To give actual names, the Kimiyoshi family, the Sonozaki family, and the Furude family. They each have quite the lineage, it seems. Long ago, it said that everything in the village was decided by a council of the three families. The Kimiyoshi family, old man Kimiyoshi, meaning the mayor's family. The Sonozaki family was Mion's, and so the Furude family was Rika-chan's family then. After the war, the Sonozaki family quickly expanded their influence. Practically speaking, after leading the fight against the construction during the dam conflict, they jumped to the top of the hierarchy in Hinamizawa. You see, though, in accordance with the old ways, they still decide important village matters only after consulting with three families. That's why the leaders of the three families each have their own address at the start of the Tanagashi. In other words, the mayor, the old lady currently in charge of the Sonozaki, and last, the remaining member of the Furude family, Rika-san. I heard that the Sonozaki family was pretty high up there, so Rika-chan's family was just as old. Well, as you're aware, she has no relatives at all. In reality, the Furude family holds pretty much no influence. However, it seems that people gravitate towards Rika-san on a personal level, and I hear that many of the village's elderly have blind faith in her. It was certainly true that Rika-chan had an odd sort of charisma amongst the elderly. So, what are you telling me about all these three family stuff for? Oshi-san paused for emphasis, lighting another cigarette. I've explained a lot, but I suppose it's not enough. I'm asking because I don't understand. Oshi-san gave me a dry, meaningful grin and blew out another puff of smoke. Members of the three family are disappearing one after another. So you're saying the Sonozaki family is pulling a coup d'etat, and they shall be the one only remaining family. Why am I imagining Mion as Major Bison now? That's what I'm talking about. I've read that it's based on some kind of old traditions inherited in Hinamizawa, but I don't know much beyond that. I don't know anything about it either. That's why I'm asking. The leaders of the Kimiyoshi and Furude families have disappeared, so maybe the leader of the Sonozaki family will disappear next. Well, that's just a random idea bouncing around my head at the moment. Well, technically that would be Mion and Shion's grandma. Just kidding, really. The leader of the Sonozaki family, who is it? The current leader is the old lady at the main house, but it wouldn't be incorrect to say that practically all the rights of leadership have been transferred to her granddaughter Mion-san. The visage of Mion, giving prompt directions to the adults while searching for Rika-chan, sprung back to mind. Mion. She's going to disappear? I hadn't even thought of that possibility. Oh, my hair is starting to end. That's insane. Nobody wants that, right? Of course not. We can't allow that. Clamp. Osan grabbed my shoulders with both hands. Then help us, Maburo-san. If there's anything you've noticed about Mion Sonozaki lately, please tell me. I was going along with him. By the time I'd realized it was too late. Osan brought his face in closer, almost close enough to ram into me, waiting for the next words. This pressure. I can't tear my eyes away from his. That moment, I heard a beeping sound. It was from the driver's seat. He ignored it at first, but then it started to bother him, so he finally let go of me and leaned into the driver's seat. Hello? Yep, loud and clear. I was saved. Of course, it's not like I could escape through the opening. I see. Yes, alright, let's head back then. Yes. Okay. Apparently he was being recalled. Now that I knew I'd be freed, the tension in my body dissipated at once. It looks like I need to get going. We were just getting good to the good part, too. That's too bad. Osan flung open the door and exited and walked around the front of the driver's seat. He left the door open. Did that mean I could leave? You really care about your friends, Maburo said. That it's an admirable trait for a kid to have in this day and age. I totally understand that it feels like you'd be betraying them if you told the police anything. Maburo-san? It's the middle of the night, so get a good night's sleep, and then think about it. Just a little bit of courage from you might end up being what saves many of your friends in the end. Did you want to say that the sacrifices wouldn't stop Rika-chan and Satoko? You know this already, but every night since Watanagashi something has happened. In the past, the curse only occurred once per year, but this time it's been going on for days. What a prosperous year this has been. I don't think you can call that prosperous. The night before last night, and now today. There's no proof that something won't happen tomorrow night as well. It's our job to prevent such things before they happen. But for that, we need your cooperation, Maburo-san. I looked out the open door to see none other than my own house right in front of me. It creeped me out that he knew my name and address, but I was too sleepy right now. I was too sleepy to care. Well, you're probably tired. It's already 3 a.m. Please get yourself a good rest. Yes, sir. I'll be going now. When I was about to get out of the truck, as if to deliver a parting blow, Oshi-san, in a raised voice, I'll be coming by every day until you feel like talking, all right? I don't believe forcing you to confess in an interrogation room is really in fashion these days. I couldn't say anything in response, but me slamming the door shut probably served the same purpose. After lightly beeping the horn, Oshi-san's truck drove off. I went to the front door without waving goodbye. The door was locked, but the chain wasn't up. I unlocked the door and entered. Then walked over to the staircase. That was where I lost consciousness. The Sonozaki family. The one to drastically expand its influence after the war was the Sonozaki family. The leader at the time was Oryo Sonozaki, or who still has that seat today. Oryo Sonozaki has grown old, and today you can only catch a glimpse of who she was at the time. From what I've been told, however, she was a leader extolled as the best in history. Having become so old, aside from going out a few times a week for lessons, she spends her time at her home in solitude, and seems to leave the most of her ceremonial affairs to her heir, Mion. There are different views on why the successor was not her daughter, but her granddaughter Mion. but it's rumored that it has to do with the disownment of her daughter and son-in-law. That uninhibited granddaughter, Mion Sonozaki, still shows no signs of the dignity required of the next leader. However, she does have the Sonozaki blood in her veins and is permitted the name of Demon. She still doubtlessly requires caution and is probably hiding her fangs and claws as skillfully as the leaders of the past did. Yes, the postal worker hasn't seen anything either. The Sonozaki main house has their seal hanging from their mailbox so that anyone can stamp their mail or parcels with it and drop it in. That's rather careless of them. So when was she last seen? She was last seen in the Tanagashi opening ceremony greetings. She apparently returned home right after that. Well, she is pretty old. From what I've heard, she goes out a few times a week to take lessons, right? Have you found anything about that? Every Monday she goes to an assembly hall to practice the Taishogoto? But she didn't go there. I don't even know what that is. Any calls to say she wasn't going to be there? Has anyone confirmed it? No, nobody. She apparently takes days off once in a while, though, so no one thought it was strange. Tomorrow, why don't we pretend we're in town hall and call around 10 o'clock? Please figure out whether she's home. 10 o'clock, got it. Ever since it started to seem more and more like ancient Hinamizawa traditions had something to do with all this, he had been keeping a careful eye on the three families. At this point, the leader of the Kimiyoshi and the leader of the Furude family had disappeared. There was only one leader left, Oryu Sonozaki, the leader of the Sonozaki family. She was apparently a pretty old woman. Her dignity hasn't waned, but she still has only appeared before people rarely, so it was difficult to confirm where she was at any given time. She was the last leader, hadn't been since the days of Tanagashi. Was she still alive and well within the Sonozaki main house, or had she? According to Mion Sonozaki, she had fallen ill and was sleeping it off. I wonder if she's really sleeping. I'd like to take a look at her face and her pulse. You can say that again. The two of them breathed out a big puff of cigarette smoke. Oh, Shisan, about the search warrants for the Sonozaki main house and the Furude shrine. Do you think we'll get them? Oh, she didn't respond. Exhaled another cloud of tobacco smoke. His surroundings now as foggy as his mind. The hidden demon. The inhabitants of Hinamizawa believe that the blood of demons flows in their blood. As such, the character for demon is treated as very sacred. For example, usage of the character demon in names is apparently a right reserved for only the leaders of the Kimiyoshi and Sonozaki families. Case in point, we can see it now in the current Sonozaki family leader's name. Oryu is written with the character. This and only this is proof that she is a legitimate leader of the Sonozaki family. In the same way, Mion Sonozaki, its successor, contains in her name, with Mi being written as. It also goes for Uryu's daughter and Mion's mother, Akane, who did not succeed her. It's known that before this zoning, Akane's name was actually written as, though it was changed afterward to still read as Akane. Incidentally, it's thought that the first character of the Mayor Kiichiro's name originally meant demon, which can also be read as Ki. It should be said that the names used in the character aren't limited to successors of the Sonozaki family. You can even find the last names of the three families. For example, the characters for Kimiyoshi are likely a split-up version of, if you write it in reverse and top to bottom, as it clearly resembles a character. As for the Furude family, who have been in the Shinto priesthood for generations, the word fortune teller can be written without the interval characters. I think that with the addition of a demon's horn, the tick on the top of the character become as used in their name now. Case of Sonozaki for Sonozaki written. Can't find a reference to the character, perhaps because it's already ingrained in their first names. They were the clan responsible for running the Tanagashi ceremony, so I think that instead, they include the contents of the ceremony into the last name. Zaki, in the Sonozaki is a conjugation of the word slice, and the Sono written as probably contains the hidden meaning of the human body, as it is a complicated mess, organs, enclosed by four sides. I think, in other words, Sonozaki comes from those who slice open the gut. I'm back. How did it go? Did you find any clues? The officers shook their head in disappointment. Exhaustion was plainly showing on everyone's faces. That was only natural. None of them had gotten a wink of sleep since the day of the Watanagashi. Chief, let the youngest of us take a nap and then switch them out. We've got a long stretch ahead of us after all. Let's not push ourselves too hard. Rest up so we can take it easy as we go. I've been telling them to sleep in shifts. Nobody actually seems to be willing to sleep, though. Could you tell them yourself, Oishi-san? Oh my, you don't need to force yourselves. Komayama-san, please let everyone sleep in shifts, starting with the youngest. Komayama-san, please do that. After the chief told him as well, Komayama-san left his seat. So, Chief, still no good on your request? It's just a rumor among the villagers in the first place, you know. It's going to be difficult without more concrete evidence. Even when that evidence might be tucked away in there, we need evidence that the evidence is tucked away in there. Chief, don't start speaking in riddles to me now. We have witnessed that, say, 4 people, including 2 who died, went into the forbidden ritual without permission. This is all reliable information. You might call it information, but they're really only rumors. They're not concrete evidence. Well, it's true that we don't have any pictures of the 4 of them sneaking with a cloth tied around their heads. Anyway, those 4 saw something inside the storehouse. Something important enough that they'd be erased. Important enough that they'd be erased. What would that be exactly? That's why I'm asking for a warrant to go looking in the first place. Anything pointing out that the Sonozaki family's connection to a violent organization would be a major contender, like a pile of Tokarevs or a secret poppy production facility. I mean, this at least makes sense. It's the concern that they're like making opium. But is this the type of gun? I don't know. The secret Sonozaki family fortune would also be pretty difficult to discard. Look, Oshat, I know how you feel. However, that storehouse is a sacred building belonging to Furuta Shrine. And we need to have proper consideration for the locals when dealing with it. I heard that there was an hour-long call made from Congressman Sonozaki to the big man. Chief, could he have nailed you back down? Anyway, as long as we don't have a suitable evidence, we won't get a search warrant for the storehouse. That goes to the Sonozaki main house, too, especially considering that the jurisdiction of both Section 4 and the Prefectural Police Crime Prevention Division. We need careful preparations first. If you say you need preparations, then why don't you just let me talk with them directly? Shijay-chan is the head of the Section 4, right? For crime prevention, it's Yamamumi-san. They seem like they'd be quicker to talk if I set them down at a mahjong table. Chief, you have a visitor. Yikes. Pushing the employee who guided him out of the way was an old man who looked like a Yakuza member, given his crested kimono and hakama. Did he not get enough of this over the phone? I am Congressman Sonozaki. I demand to know who's responsible for this instant. Hello, I am the division chief, Takatsuchi. I don't need your name. You asked. I could have you demoted on a whim. You wouldn't even be enough. Bring out the one called Oishi or whatever. He deserves punishment requesting a search warrant of the sacred Furuta Shrine. I sincerely apologize. Oishi-san is currently out of investigation. He's been difficult to contact. I'll take his place and hear you out. So please have a seat. The chief's eyes are telling me to get out of here. Perhaps I'll gratefully accept this favor. Maybe I'll go lay down in the nap room. Listen here. The Furuta Shrine spent 2,600 years under the imperial calendar and 2,500 more beyond that. It's sacred. A sanctuary that must never be defiled. 800,000 gods. Oyashiro summoned the spirits of our ancestors are enshrined there. The holy shrine protects Hideman's hour from the sun comes up to when it sets, and from the moon rises to when it falls. And who is the idiot who wanted to set foot in there? Besides, the right to religion is the most revered right of the people of this country in the Constitution. You dare to be so bold as to sully that using your own investigation negligence as a pretext? I cannot and I will not allow it. Are you listening, you lying scum? I'm angry now, so you're not getting off the hook so easily. I saw a ceiling I was familiar with. Though I was groggy from sleep, I did notice that it was my futon. Like I was every morning, I looked at my clock, and despite having turned in so late, I had woken up precisely the same moment I always did. I'm so low on sleep, but I guess you really can't get up at the same time every day. The secrets of the human body never cease to amaze me. If I went to sleep like this, I would definitely not be waking up again. I spurred myself on and slipped out of my futon. Mom asked me out last night at breakfast. Apparently we two had gotten a call if we knew where Rika-chan and Satoko were, and Mom vaguely understood that something serious was happening. So then you were out late last night with your friends looking for them. Until about 3, I think. Yeah. Did you find them? Rika-chan and Satoko, I mean. Crunch. I wearily bit into my toast. It really didn't have any taste. Just then we heard the chime go ding-dong. I looked up at the clock and saw that it was about 5 minutes for early meeting time with Rena. It was her at the door. Good morning. Did you get any sleep, did you? I think I slept for a few hours. You could probably count them on chicken's toes, though. Rena seemed pretty sleep-deprived as well. There was something missing from her usual spirit. Are you going to school? Yeah, I think it would be better that way. She said, smiling, albeit stiffly. Rena was probably worrying her heart out about those two as well. Even so, she wanted to go to school. If you stay home today, I think you'd just be worrying nonstop and sleeping. I don't want that, so let's go to school together. All right. Wait just a moment. I'll get ready. I was just a little bit happy about Rena muttering that much consideration for me. We went to the place where we'd usually meet up with Mion, but she was nowhere to be found. We were a bit late today, so we thought she'd be waiting for us. I guess Mi-chan couldn't wake up today, huh? That's right. For her, it wasn't just yesterday. So she was up all night looking for the bear the night before, too? We waited for a bit. Time passed until it got to the point where it was about okay for us to go alone, and we exchanged glances. What do? Wait a little longer? At that point, my brain, which had been fully woken up by the morning air, recalled the ominous words Oishi-san had left with me last night. The leaders of the 3 families were disappearing one after the other. And the next, it might be Sonozaki's leader. Could Mion have? No, that couldn't be. Let's go. Let's let her sleep for today. Rena gave me a pat on the back. Mion. She's still here, right? Huh? Did you say something? Oh, nothing. Just talking to myself. Let's get moving. The 2 of us headed to school by ourselves. On the way, we saw a bunch of our classmates accompanied by their parents. It even looked like some of them were being taken to school by car. Surprisingly, the principal also was standing watch at the school gate. I had never seen that before. Good morning. Good morning. The principal was bowing to our classmates' guardians. The wooden sword leaning next to him was a little ominous. Mabura-kun. Good morning. Ryuga-kun. Good morning. Good morning. Your teacher has something important to say. Head straight to the classroom. All right. Ren and I said nothing. The madness that only existed at night that crawled back out of the sunlight. That's what it felt like. Good morning, everyone. The hushed conversations that had been spreading for a while now all disappeared like an illusion the moment our teacher walked in the door. Silence dominated the classroom. The principal came in with our teacher as well. This was clearly not a normal meeting. First, the principal has something important to tell everyone. Go ahead, Mr. Principal. The principal cleared his throat and approached the dais. I'm sure some of you already know this. The classroom was dead silent. Everyone was staring at Rika-chan and Satoko-chan's empty seats. The principal briefly and simply declared that Rika-chan and Satoko had gone missing. There wasn't a single person in the classroom who didn't. already know. There seemed to be many, however, who couldn't accept it as the truth. It had been confirmed to them, now by the principal's words. There were sobs throughout the classroom, and I heard a kid crying. They steadily spread throughout the whole room. The big-hearted principal wasn't about to keep us cool either. Okay, everyone, pay attention. From today on, your parents or guardians will be taking you to school. For those of you whose parents can't do so, you'll be coming here in groups. I made a handout, so read it carefully and be sure to show it to your parents. Understand? The teacher's voice was a little abrasive. Not even she could conceal the strain she felt from this unprecedented, abnormal situation. They should have just canceled school today. However, Rena told me that the school was also like a nursery for the students whose parents both worked. So some of them wouldn't want school to be canceled. Well then, let's begin the lesson. Class president, she's absent, I see. Then whoever's on day duty, let me hear it. All rise. That feeling of wanting to maintain an everyday atmosphere, even if in our school, precisely because our lives have been messed up, was something that I agreed with at this point. As for the teacher, who always had her lunch in the staff lounge, she ate in the classroom today. I'm going to do something I probably shouldn't. I am going to look at the remaining achievements for the game. We have 9 of 15 achievements. Tough call. Demand the truth. Sorry about that, Twisted Sisters. Twisted Sisters, learn the truth. The last snail. Complete Watanagashi. Watanagashi party. Enjoy Watanagashi's after party. Detective, read all the tips in Watanagashi. Well, that spoiled nothing. But I wonder in the future if I should read all the... like heck. I have all the other higurashis right here. Chapter 3, Tartar Garoshi. Chapter 4, Himbatsubushi. Chapter 5, Miyakashi. Sumi Hororobushi. Minagoroshi. Chapters 8 is Matsuri Bayashi, and then we have Ray, so technically chapter 9. Oh, and also Ho Plus. H-O-U. Or is that the chapter 1? No, that's a different one. So would that be 9 or that would be 10? Don't know what order that should be played in. That being said, let's go to the store page real quick. Pause. Developer 07 expansion. Browse. Upcoming. There is nothing upcoming. Very doubtful I'll ever play the Umineko games. Okay, let's... Okay. So Ray came out in 2022, and... Okay, so Ho Plus, H-O-U Plus, came out in 2023. The original game came out in 2014. So I wonder if there'll be a new one at some point. No idea. As for the teacher who always had her lunch in the staff lounge, she ate in the classroom today. I had to laugh at her curry bento, which is just a rumor until now, but there was nobody to laugh with me. Renner brought her chair and lunch over to my seat. Today it was only the two of us. The fact that we didn't need to drag any other desks over was sad. I'm sleepy. Yeah. I don't feel like sleeping anymore, though. In fact, I'm jealous of the people that could sleep at a time like this. They've got nerves of steel. You're right. I was sleepy this morning, but my drowsiness had dissipated after coming to school and constantly feeling the incredible tension. Rena's bento box didn't have its usual luster. That was to be expected. Rena was up for a long time last night, too. She wouldn't have had time to make her lunch beforehand, so it's not like she would have gotten up early this morning. Grab anything you want. Go ahead, and you can admit my bento is better today. Okay, then I'll have some. Wow, a chikuwa roll with a perilla and cheese. That's interesting. Rena, yours might have a ready-made food in it, but it's pretty good, too. I realized that the two of us were desperately trying to brighten the afternoon mood to its usual level as much as we could. I looked around the classroom, and it seemed like we were the only ones trying to do so, surrounded by, as we were, by gloominess. Oof, just the two of us sharing our lunches like this. It's sort of like something. How? Ha 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 ha. Ah ha ha. Our laughter grew quieter. I was the first one to mess up. I'm sorry. No, it's okay. It's not your fault. Our chopsticks both stopped moving. We couldn't keep it up anymore. Rika-chan, Satoko. I wonder where they went. Those words might have sounded too miserable. Everyone was thinking at roundabout ways to address the subject, but I came right out and said it. I heard Rena catch her breath. Yesterday, while you were gone, I heard a bunch of things. So I'll tell you what I know, okay? Sorry again about last night. Go ahead. At the time, since they had arrived for support, Rena was helping the ladies' society cook the miso soup we had. They reported all the information the villagers had gathered, and Rena said she'd overheard it. They didn't know anything important, though, did they? Rika-chan and Satoko went home after school, and then apparently went somewhere on their bikes. But other than that, Mion had told me yesterday. We had no clues. Yeah. The police also said that they probably went out on their bikes to go play somewhere. As soon as they got home, if they wanted to play somewhere as their bikes were riding home, they might have gotten into town. So I guess they concluded they disappeared while Okonomiya? The police were saying how they were going to expand their search of Okonomiya this morning. In town, it makes sense why we couldn't find them even though we searched all of Hinamizawa then. Still, something didn't fit. I had no basis for thinking that, just a gut feeling. I revealed something to Rika-chan that was likely very important to her that day. Then Rika-chan had told me to leave it to her. And then, what did she say? Alright, if she didn't work hard, then something bad might happen to the dog, too, I think. With all the talk of dogs and cats, I still don't have the faintest idea what she really meant, but it might have been Rika-chan's way of saying that she was a race against time. Damn it. I'd selfishly pushed my anxiety on Rika-chan and tried to run away. When I thought about it, I shouldn't have run back then. I should have asked her more about the dogs and cats. The more I think back on it, I really screwed up. Anyway, I don't think Rika-chan was in a situation where she would just go off and play somewhere. Of course, I didn't have any evidence or conviction to base that on. It was just a hunch. I don't think she'd go into town. You think so too, Keiichi-kun? I agree. Rika-chan and Satoko-chan must have disappeared in Hinamizawa. I looked back around and startled. I could hear the conviction in those words. Without replying to my gaze, she took her bento box and went into the hallway. I'm going to rinse this out. She timed that in a way that broke off the conversation. Suddenly I got the feeling that the next thing she had to say would be hard to say aloud in the classroom. I hurriedly grabbed my bento box and followed her. Rena didn't go to the kitchenette, but rather the water fountains out back, where students seldom went. The water flowed down onto her bento boxes. During the time, Rena didn't say a word. Then, after making sure there was no other students around, she finally opened her mouth to speak. The whole thing about Rika-chan and Satoko-chan going to a town to play and then disappearing, that didn't make sense for some reason, so I decided to investigate a little bit myself. Who did you ask? What did you ask them about? I asked the Lady Society all kinds of things. There was a lot of tofu in the miso soup yesterday, remember? The old lady from the tomato shop came too. The tomato tofu shop? Oh, I remember. That was one of the stores in the road leading to the hospital. Those huge lumps of tofu dancing in the bathtub-like cistern always looked nice and refreshing. The old lady says she remembers Satoko-chan stopping by to buy tofu there on her way home from school. Tofu? Well, it's on the way home, right? How is that a clue? Just listen. Do you remember we went to Rika-chan's house? Rena stepped. Oh, whether or not the tofu's there or not, we know whether or not they made it home. Because if the tofu's in the fridge, the fresh tofu's there, then it means that they made it home. And if it's not, then it means they got abducted before they got home. Rena stepped away from the sinks and spread her arms wide to recreate the space of Rika-chan's room. There was a pot of her gas cooker. There was miso soup in it. I think there was probably about half of it inside. The rest was in the refrigerator. Okay, so they at least made it home and then had to leave in a hurry. Or get abducted in a hurry. One of those things. They must have been planning to make chilled tofu. It was on the plate in plastic wrap. As Rena explained, she walked around as if she were really going through Rika-chan's room. Still, Rena, why does that matter? Keiichi-kun, when you make miso soup, you put the tofu in last. That means Rika-chan and Satoko-chan, whoever was cooking, was standing there making it up until right before dinner time. Right up until dinner time? Wasn't everyone saying that their bikes weren't around? So they must have gone somewhere to play by themselves? The trash in the countertop bin was put there, and really awkwardly too. Rika-chan makes most of their food and lunches, but occasionally Satoko-chan does too. So Satoko-chan was cooking last night. So that means that Satoko at least didn't go somewhere to play. She was preparing dinner. Yeah. Then I took a look at the rice cooker, and there was rice or two still in there. So she made dinner for both of them, but neither of them ate it. Is that it? Is it possible that Satoko started cooking and then Rika didn't come back, and she went and looked for Rika herself? So next I looked at the fridge. There was some chilled tofu made from the other half that brought, but that's not all either. There was a whole bunch of plates and side dishes for dinner, and all of them were in plastic wrap. Usually plastic things that you can't have for leftovers the next day. My mom does it all the time too, using them in breakfast lunch. That's right. Use plastic wrap to save leftovers for later. So the fact that they were in the fridge means that they didn't plan on eating them that night at least. Is that what that means? Keiichi-kun, think a little harder. Their dinner was totally untouched and wrapped up. What do you think that means? Well, that means they didn't need to eat dinner anymore. I would say Satoko made food, but then when she realized that Rika wasn't on time getting home, she went and packaged everything up and then went and tried to find Rika. So they wouldn't have gone to eat or ordered about. It must have been really sudden, too. If they had decided to do that beforehand, they wouldn't have made anything, but there was also dinner for two of them. That means that when Satoko was making their dinner, they really thought they were going to eat it until right before they didn't. So then, theory about the two of them going to play disappearing is wrong. But it also means that it wasn't a huge rush. It wasn't like they were running for their lives. Because I'll tell you this. If it was an emergency, you're not bothering to pack up your food. You're just leaving your fucking plate on the kitchen table and you're not worried about that shit. Yep. They disappeared after making dinner and right before they ate it. Probably around 7 o'clock. But the fact that it's packaged up either means that they had they weren't in a huge rush to leave, or whoever took them decided to package up their food to make it look less obvious. Where would they have gone in a time like that by themselves without eating? That's obviously where this is leading. Keiichi-kun, do you remember? On their fold-out table, there was things like soy sauce and a chopstick holder. There might have been something like that. I don't remember. The container for the soy sauce, it was empty. There wasn't even a drop left. Chilled tofu wouldn't taste good without it, so I looked under the sink for a larger bottle of soy sauce they have. You sure know a lot about where they keep stuff. I've been to Rika-chan's house and cooked for them before. Rena cleared her throat, her face returning to a serious expression. Then when I opened the cabinet, the big bottle of soy sauce wasn't there at all. It wasn't there, so what does that mean? Everything I'm going to say from here on is just Rena's idea, so please listen until the end without saying anything. Last night, Satoko was making dinner like normal. Rika-chan usually watched TV until the food was ready, so she was probably lying down watching a variety show or something. Satoko put the tofu in the miso soup, and right when dinner was about to be ready, she noticed that they were out of soy sauce. So Rika-chan, who had nothing to do, brought the big bottle of soy sauce to a neighbor's house to borrow theirs. I don't really know my neighbors that well. Would people be willing to give her soy sauce? Yeah, it's not all that uncommon in Hinamizawa. So Rika-chan rode her bike out to get some soy sauce. No matter how long Satoko-chan waited, though, Rika-chan didn't come back. This makes sense. So then Satoko-chan called up to the house where Rika-chan was going. Would Rika happen to be imposing on you? Something like that. Then the other person must have replied with something like this. We have plenty of food here, so you should come too, Satoko-chan. Rika-chan has already eaten. I think that's how they called her out there. Satoko called Rika a few names in private and wrapped up the dinner she had made for them. She put it in the fridge so she could use it for the breakfast and lunch the next day. Then Satoko got on her bike too. And headed for the house where Rika-chan was. But what house would she go to? Okay, but this is already pretty strange. You don't normally make so much food that you can give it to people who suddenly arrive at your house. A veteran housewife would never make so much food that she could feed 2 extra people. Couldn't it just been a coincidence that they made too much? It's still unthinkable. Rena flatly denied me, since Rika-chan knew that Satoko-chan had worked really hard to make dinner for them, didn't she? No matter what kind of food she was offered, she wouldn't let Satoko-chan dinner go to waste. This is all circumstantial evidence and Rena's guesswork. Even so, it was all extremely convincing. It was only ray of hope we had to topple this situation bereft of clues. Then Rena, where did Rika-chan go to get the soy sauce? That was the heart of it. It would have to be somewhere she'd be comfortable with asking for soy sauce, and somewhere Satoko wouldn't think it's suspicious that she'd be invited for dinner. So who was it? Rena slowly shook her head. Mion's house? That's all for Rena's guesses. They're all just ideas, okay? Keep them a secret from the police. What is there to hide? Even if only half what you say is right, there should be a good clue for all this. Keiichi-kun? This all means suspecting someone from Hinamizawa. We can't suspect anyone for a really good reason. I saw a few girls come over to rinse out their bento boxes. Rena cut the conversation short there and returned to the classroom. I stayed there alone, my body bathed in the lively voices of the cicadas. Let's think about this in my own way. Rena had barely information to go on, and yet she had reasoned out that much. Well, I guess our best option at that point would be to think about where Rika lives, and then think about who lives close to her. So there should be something that only I, who knew far more than Rena did, could deduce. Oshi-san said this last night too, but this incident was definitely occurring within Hinamizawa. Rena might not have wanted to believe it, but it's basically given that the culprit is someone from the village. The trigger for everything was when the four of us trespassed in the forbidden storehouse. Somebody saw us go in there. The culprits breaking the taboo was a crime punishable by death. So that night, Tomotaki-san and Takano-san were sacrificed. There were two left. Shion and myself. However, before the culprits bore their fangs on Shion and me, they went after the mayor to whom Shion had confessed her sin. Next, they went for Rika-chan, to whom I had confessed my sin. Then what about Satoko? Just a stray bullet? By itself, Rika-chan being sacrificed after told her everything was mortifying. More than likely, Rika-chan would have told Satoko, or they would have simply just been concerned that Rika-chan may have told Satoko. But Satoko was sacrificed for no reason. Wasn't that all that more regrettable? Everything was my fault. Who would be the next to disappear? Would it be Shion or me next time? Why weren't the culprits going after Shion and me right away, though? If they had enough power to erase the mayor and Rika-chan, then why just get rid of Shion and me? If they went for us, well, I wouldn't like it, but I could still tolerate it. What I couldn't forgive was them getting rid of those we'd confessed to. Now that I think about it, yesterday Shion said something alarming. She felt like someone was watching her. So then, was someone watching me as well? Strangely, though, I hadn't felt anything like that until now. Even though I'm the root cause of everything, I had never once had that impression. Maybe it's oyashiro-sama that's watching you. Maybe that was simply because Shion was more cautious than me, and I was just careless. That's another story, though. Let's get back on track. Why weren't the culprits going after Shion and me? I feel like that there's a key to this. Lei. Could it be? Was I making a big assumption that I shouldn't have made? I thought, but I couldn't come up with an answer. The one thing I understood was that I was a concerned party to this case, and that I had a duty to watch over it until everything got resolved. I heard the ring of the bell, declaring the end of the lunch break. Would somebody else disappear tonight? If nobody else did, then I wanted them to get rid of me tonight for sure, and then put an end to all of this. Shion's hysterical voice on the phone last night came back to mind. They planned to murder those close to us first, then make it miserable as possible, and only then would they kill us. Mamoru-kun, lunch break is over. Go back to the classroom. At the principal's urging, I returned to the classroom, which was quiet as the streets at night. There were lots of parents picking up their children after school. It was just like a kindergarten. The students whose parents didn't come went home as a group. We left school with everyone else following the assigned route. Even while leaving, nobody said anything funny. They all looked like exhausted mountaineers silently marching through the mountains. As we went, one left, and then another, and in the end it was just Rena and me. I was supposed to escort Rena all the way to her house, but she declined. Will you be all right? It's not safe to go alone. Take the sword. It would be just as dangerous for you to go home by yourself after bringing me back, Keiichi-kun. It's still light out anyway. I'll be fine. I see. Then be careful, okay? Yeah. Huh? Isn't that the policeman? Rena pointed towards my house. There was a car stopped in front of it. From out of the car came Oishi-san. He must have been waiting for my return to ambush me. Oishi-san started walking over wearing the annoying grin. Rena, you should go. If you get involved with him, you'll be here for hours. But, what do the police want with you? With you? Rena's a good person. Even when I made a fuss over Rika-chan's disappearance, she never asked me why I did. She could have been suspecting me ever since then, and that would have been okay. Even so, she still hadn't asked me anything. She didn't try and pressure me into revealing the truth. I'm not the culprit. I know that. That said, I can't say that I'm totally uninvolved with this incident. Rena simply listened, smiling like she always did. Even though I had insinuated I was related to the incident, she didn't look at me as though she were looking at something dirty. I'll tell you next time. Okay, there won't be next time. I'm looking forward to it. Get going then. Rena gave me a slight bow and trotted away, leaving me alone with Oishi-san, who walked over. Hello, hello! Welcome home, Mamoru-san. Hello. It looks like your parents aren't here. My, was I in a bit of a spot. He came all the way to my house. I could only think my good fortune that my parents were absent. Since neither of them was around at this hour, they would probably be back late. I think Dad got called out on business. I don't think he'll be back until later. I see. Well, that's convenient, I suppose. We can do this without giving your parents any strange ideas. Oji-san pushed me back, prompting me to walk. It seemed like he wanted me to get in the car. Are you taking me to the police station? I wasn't the culprit, but I was the cause of everything. It wouldn't be weird if you wanted to investigate me. That kind of gave me a resigned feeling. No, I just want to stand or just don't want to stand and talk. We can talk in the car, that's all. Plus, there's air conditioning. Come now, don't be shy. He opened the back door and urged me inside. If I got in, I wouldn't have a very easy time getting out. If I said no, however, then this man might really handcuff me and take me away. I couldn't refuse. I could only accept in good grace. The inside of the car had been cooled too much with the air conditioner, and there was a rusty smell coming from the filter, which must have been cleaned out only rarely. Oh, is it too cold? I'll turn the car off. He turned off the engine and it suddenly became quiet, and the voices of the higurashi, with all their cool loneliness, snuck inside. It sounded to me like a chorus of voices, lamenting my exorbitant punishment for having harbored such foolish curiosity. For a few moments, while listening to those voices, I myself lamented the days that had been twisted and distorted since that night. Oishi-san, as if waiting for me to voluntarily begin talking, lit a cigarette and listened to the higurashi. The silence became deafening, and I was the one who folded first. How is the investigation going? The investigation of what? There have been so many. Which do you mean? All of them. Well, all right then. They're officially secret investigations, and we're under a media blackout, but I'll let you in on them. Then shall we start from the first incident? The freak deaths of Tomitaki-san and Takano-san in the night of Watanagashi. On this one, embarrassingly enough, we haven't made any progress at all. First of all, Tomitaki-san, there are indications that his body was assaulted by a group of people, but we have no explanation for him clawing out his own throat and dying. We suspect an overdose from a stimulant or something, but we didn't detect anything. What about Takano-san? The same, we're in the dark. Autopsies for those who were burned to death are real tough. We believe she was doused in gasoline after she was strangled. That one falls under the Gifu Prefecture's police department. They haven't been very cooperative, even though it happened in our territory. Oh, that's not really relevant, though. So the police don't know anything, other than the fact the victims died inexplicably. Nonetheless, the times the incidents occurred have generally placed right after the festival ended. It's a bit uncertain in Takano-san's case, but the likely prospect is that she was murdered at the same time as Tomitaki-san, then dumped in the mountains in Gifu. Why would they bring a dead body all the way to the mountains? They should have just brought Tomitaki-san out there too. Oh my, Mamoru-san, you're quite sharp, you know that. Of course, I do believe that is something we need to be attentive of. There are a bunch of other suspicious things, but this is about all I can tell you at this point. How about the mayor? Have there been any clues? Having exhausted that topic, I changed the subject. Otherwise, he might turn the conversation on me. We investigated his movements on the day he disappeared. We didn't find anything that could provide any clues, but I'll tell you about it anyway. The mayor, Kiichiro Kimiyoshi, apparently he was suffering from severe hemorrhoids. People who've lived a long time have an unusual amount of pride, so the mayor hadn't been telling anyone that he was going to a proctologist at certain university hospital in Shishibone. On the day he disappeared, he had an appointment for a checkup, so he went out first thing in the morning. Even I knew that big hospital like University Hospital had a really long waiting time. Apparently people would get in line for hours beforehand, even if they had an appointment. His exam ended at 1 p.m. After that, he ate a light meal in the hospital restaurant and passed the time reading a magazine. We know this because a receipt we found in his wallet at his house. There was nothing suspicious at all about that. The day he had planned to go to a meeting in the assembly hall in the evening. He was supposed to return home with plenty of time to spare, but while he was on the train coming back, there was an accident. Seems it was delayed him a bit, and he only got back to his house right before the meeting was scheduled to start. His family witnessed a very hectic mayor leaving to go to the assembly hall at the shrine. What was the meeting about? He disappeared on his way back home, right? The three families, the essential family members of town assemble at the meeting. We think they were discussing how to deal with the serial freak death incidents that happened to see again this year. So then, on his way home, the old man who treated she like his own daughter, he was a dependable person who would encourage Shion whenever she felt pressured by anxiety. And yet, Shion's painful voice struck me right in the heart. Huh? What's the matter? I was taken aback by how strange my own voice sounded. What was it that just surprised me? I squeezed my head with my hands to try and drag back out what I had only realized for a split second. Remember, Keiichi Mabura, you just realized something important. The night of the Watanagashi. That was when everything started. That night Takano-san Tomosa died. The next morning, the word of the incident spread through Hinamizawa. They planned to talk about it during the evening meeting. The mayor, however, had an appointment at the hospital. As planned, he went there without telling his family. He got a checkup at the hospital, ate something, and then there was an unexpected delay on the train ride back. When he returned, the meeting was already about to start. The mayor changed clothes, got on his bicycle, and hurried to the assembly hall at the shrine as fast as he could. From when he heard about the incident on the night of the Watanagashi until when he showed up at the assembly hall, everything he was doing that day was done in secret. During that time, nobody found out that. He went to the hospital alone. He ate alone. And he got on the train alone. That all meant he had absolutely no contact with anybody else. You couldn't even call him on the phone. Okay, but what does that mean, Keiichi Mabura? Why does that matter, Keiichi Mabura? Kei-chan, what should I do? What's wrong? Tell me. We're not keeping secrets from each other, right? Old man Kimiyoshi, I told him everything. I told old man Kimiyoshi everything. That night I told the mayor that we snuck into the ritual storehouse. Also that someone saw us and was out to get us. Right. What then? Old man Kimiyoshi didn't get angry. He smiled and told me that if I was properly sorry about it, then there was no way I'd be demoned away. He was really smiling, and he told me to leave it to him. Sweat burst out of my body like bullets. They became one long strand and slid down from my forehead to my nose and fell. So then, what does it mean? Hey, Keiichi Mabura, no more playing dumb. When did she tell him? Shion said she had learned the incident from a phone call her father made that morning. The mayor had left the house first thing in the morning for his appointment at the hospital. He didn't tell anybody where he was going. Nobody knew about him going to the university hospital. Furthermore, his train ride back to the house was delayed by an accident. As soon as he got home, he rushed out to the assembly hall. Then the meeting at the assembly hall began and continued until it was dark out. Then everyone left. Nobody saw him after the meeting was over. He just disappeared. Which meant, Mabura-san, are you alright? If you're too hot, I can turn the air conditioner. Another part of me was messing with my thoughts, demanding I not think any further than that. My head was pounding violently, and the fluids packed inside all blended together until nothing made sense. It was just about to settle, yet it had been smashed and melted in the blink of an eye, no longer able to retain its shape. Mabura-san, are you in there? Yeah. Osh-san lit another cigarette. There was yet another cigarette butt placed in the ashtray. Was it displaying the passage of time? Had my thoughts been frozen over for that long? I've tried to tell everything I know. In return, feel free to tell me anything you want, Mabura-san. My mind had become a gigantic oozing mess. My brain felt like it had been totally minced by the blades of a blender, and I couldn't think. Now, don't claim up again. If there is any misunderstandings, I'd like to clear them up first. I don't think you're the culprit here or anything. Oshi-san gave his best attempt at an adult smile. I know the four of you snuck into the ritual storehouse that night. Everyone in the village heard rumors about it the next day. That in itself means we should take you for trespassing, but that isn't the problem. It's what's inside. What was inside that made people who snuck in there end up as sacrifices? There wasn't anything. As soon as I said it, I regretted confirming my presence there. But I knew it didn't matter anymore. Was there really nothing in there? I mean, everyone who went in is being sacrificed one by one, you know. Even the mayor and Rika-san who switched the lock on the door were sacrificed. What was inside that could have caused such terrible things to happen? I was far too tired of keeping quiet about this. Perhaps that was Oshi-san's goal after all. But again, that didn't matter anymore. There were just a lot of torture devices that were used a long time ago. I looked around at them with everyone. Was that really all? That was really all. There was nothing terrible in there that would make you keep silent, like a pile of psychoactive drugs, maybe a secret poppy workshop, perhaps there was mountains of Soviet or Chinese handguns. There wasn't any suspicious wooden boxes or containers picked up there. There was nothing as exaggerated as what Osage was hoping for, but I felt like in a way there were plenty of terrible things hidden in there. From the perspective of someone who viewed the storehouse was sacred, whether or not I thought I had seen some crazy things doesn't matter in the slightest. The four of us broke the taboo. Punish us. That should have been what happened. We put in a request for a search warrant, thinking there might have been some secrets hidden in the storehouse. It's been the sabotage of the century. They said it would be an insult to religious figures and something about the right to free religion in the Constitution. Ah, jeez. That's why I really didn't have any other recourse but to ask you, since you went in there. There really was just old, rusty, dusty torture equipment. Nothing else stood out. Then Tomitaki-san and Taka-san were only killed as punishment for having broken the taboo? I didn't have an answer to the only part. I suppose I won't bother hiding it anymore. You're the only one to escape harm so far. Everyone but you has disappeared yet. You alone are safe. What about Shion? What's the difference between you and the others that would protect you, but bring harm to the others? That's what I want to know. There was something wrong with what Oishi-san was saying. You alone. You alone. What? Wait a second. What do you mean by you alone? I'm saying that you alone have been left alive, right? Out of the four people who tiptoed into the storehouse for ritual implements, I mean. The only one left alive. Hold on. Shion was still... Jiro died that night. And Shion's Sono... Fuck! So when I yelled at her on the phone... But I still don't know if, like, Mion... Like, if... So Shion might have been one to take the mayor. But this does mean something. It does mean that Shion officially disappeared the day after. You know, basically, the last time I talked to Shion before this disappearance was official was when I yelled at her. So I never actually got to apologize to her. However, here's the thing. Is Shion... Like, because there's multiple timelines. There's a timeline where it's... Again, it kind of sucks that I spit spoiled on the story, but there's timelines where Shion's the good guy, and Mion's the one who's psycho. There's others where Mion's the good guy, and Shion's the one who's psycho. Here's the question. Did Mion kidnap Shion and hide Shion away? Or did Shion abduct Mion during the hangover thing days and days ago and has been pretending to be Mion since then? Which means during the whole search thing and all that, and during the phone call where I was talking to Shion after yelling at her, it could have been Mion pretending to be Shion, or it could be that after Shion had already disappeared herself and was pretending to be Mion, she was still having phone calls with me, being herself. Only you are still safe and sound at this. Why only you? I'm saying that's what I want to know. Shion disappeared? That's impossible. I unintentionally raised my voice, but I didn't care about that. Tomitaka-san died. Tomasa died. When Shion disappeared? When did she disappear? What is this guy talking? Oh, well, I know. I thought you were long since aware of this. But this is the first I've heard about it. Shion did win. Well, going back a bit, she disappeared the day after the Watanagashi. Going back a bit? Stop saying stuff. Shion-san is like spends the night at a relative's house, depending on her mood, any given day, so no one thought much of knowing where she was. She frequently takes days off from school, too. Her teachers have been pretty troubled by it. I didn't ask about any of it. I'm asking you when Shion disappeared. I told you it was the day after the Watanagashi. But I have been talking to her. The fluids in my body all reversed direction. I lost my sense of balance, and everything I could see started to warp and twist out of shape. I simply couldn't endure it. Hang on. Shion had already disappeared? Then that night, the phone call, who was that? Well, it was either Mion pretending to be Shion, or it was Shion who had already kidnapped her sister Mion, and was pretending to be Mion, calling me and pretending to be herself. She called me every night. She encouraged me. We vowed that we would do the best to live on, not be erased. Yes, should have been a phone call with Shion. Should have been a phone call with Shion. Should have been a phone call with Shion. She took breaks from class, and it was nothing. Her family told us school in the end, so it ended up taking quite a while before we realized she had disappeared. I felt a stabbing pain like needles were being pushed into every pore of my body. It started on my back and began spreading throughout the rest of me. When it had completely recovered the surface of my skin, it began to worm its way inside my stomach as well. Don't you remember? We talked to the library the day after the Watanagashi. Shion was there then. That was the last we saw of her. No one knows where she's been since. That can't be. The day Oishi-san had only caught me and Shion bundled away, lying that she needed to go to work. Didn't she call me that night? Her job was at a restaurant, Angelmore, right? She hasn't been there since that day. She's been completely absent ever since. The person at the restaurant couldn't get in touch with her. He was really worried. That can't be. It can't be. It's only circumstantial evidence, but after she's left this library, but before she made it to work. I think it's appropriate to consider her having disappeared during that time, right after Shion ran away without me? It seems that you didn't know. Maybe if you had said something earlier, this would have gone more quickly. Now you understand, right? You're the only one left. You're the only survivor of the four who slipped into the ritual storehouse. It couldn't be. It just couldn't be. If something else happens, it wouldn't happen to be you. It would happen to you. I need you to understand that, Mamoru-san. It can't be. It can't. I've been talking to Shion. And there's only one person I know who sounds like her. It can't be. Shion had already disappeared. Or, like I said, maybe Mion, maybe Shion. Again, I don't know what timeline we're in. Imagine if I was playing this game completely blind. Then again, to some degree, we're already a bit spoiled, and even if I hadn't been spoiled by the anime and stuff, let's be clear. Chapter 1 of the game, where Keiichi went insane and beat people to death with a fucking baseball bat and everything was happening, that also gives us a little spoiler for... I'm just saying this. Imagine if, Chapter 2 was your first exposure to higurashi and you had no idea what to expect. Then again, I suppose that same idea could apply to every successive chapter. That, what if, say, Chapter 3 or Chapter 4, and we have up to Chapter 10, which is the Ho plus, HU and the plus symbol. Imagine if any of those was your very first exposure to higurashi, you had no idea what to expect. Though this also makes me think, will there ever be any more higurashi games on Steam? And yes, I understand there's probably things edited out for the Steam version. That's unfortunate. But I wonder, is 07 still making more games? When I clicked on the upcoming releases, there was nothing. Then again, maybe they're retired. Maybe they're not gonna make any more games. That's Then again, it's going to take me forever to get through all the rest of the higurashi games anyway. Maybe by then they will have started to make a new project? Though I don't know what would live up to this. Or even if they were to make a chapter 11 for higurashi, I don't know what they would do that would be new. Shion had already disappeared. That couldn't be. It couldn't be. I talked to her the day before yesterday. I talked to her last night. She was going to call me again today. That was Shion on the phone. Shion on the phone. It was from Shion. From Shion. Shion has long since disappeared. Next will be you. Then who was on the phone the past nights? Who was on the phone the past nights? Who was on the phone those past nights? It can't be. I lay down on the couch and stayed there dazed a while. My mind was completely blank. I couldn't think about anything for more than a few seconds. There was a note in my house saying that Mom and Dad would be home late and that I should have some ramen or something for dinner. I could make it whenever I got hungry, but I had no appetite, so I just started blankly listening without eating anything. The hands of the clock were already pointing at 10. Would I get another phone call like that today? Even though Shion had already disappeared, would she still call me? Where were they calling from? And who were they? Is the detective staying the night? He should be, under this circumstance. The more I thought about it, the more I started to tremble. I even thought about disconnecting the phone line. If I had been thinking about it a little less logically, I really would have done it too. I think the most logical thing in this situation would be I should wait with the cordless phone. I should have Oishi-san there, ready to listen in on the corded phone, but have the mouthpiece covered so he doesn't give away that he's listening. If I had been thinking a little less logically, I really would have done it too. Hold on, Keiichi Mabura. Oishi-san admitted himself, didn't he? That Shion went missing a lot. Couldn't she have just gone to her relatives and Oishi-san didn't know about and have been there ever since? Shion and I were both targeted by somebody, so it wouldn't be strange to think she went somewhere she usually didn't in order to hide. That must have been why Oishi-san couldn't locate her and why he labeled her as a disappearance. Yeah, that had to be it. Shion hadn't disappeared at all. We're being stupid, Keiichi. Then my right hand moved to his own volition and slapped me on the cheek. A cold sting let me calm down a little. Don't just convince yourself of the most convenient possibility, Keiichi Mabura. I knew I didn't want to admit she had disappeared. Admitting it would mean that something terrifying was definitely happening. I just needed to figure out whether Shion was the one on the phone or not. Would I ask her if she was actually Shion? That seemed like an incredibly absurd thing to do. Still, don't run from this, Keiichi. If the person on the other end still believed that I thought she was Shion, then that gave me a tiny advantage. Casually, completely casually, I would listen to what she had to say and fend her off. I would tear the skin off the monster. It would definitely be really scary for me. However, as the last survivor of the people who went to the storehouse that night, this was my duty to perform. Still, then who? Who would call me and pretend to be Shion? I may have only heard her over the phone, but her voice shouldn't be that easy to replicate. That was definitely Shion's voice. It sounded just like her. It could have only been Shion. There was someone, though, wasn't there? Again, we should have had the fucking detective stay the night and have him listen in on the phone, which wouldn't be possible nowadays because we all use cell phones now. Someone who sounded just like Shion. Mion. Who else could have done this? Or, the Miana we've been seeing lately isn't the real Mion, and Shion is pretending to be Mion. And so the reason Shion's disappeared is because she's now living a full life as Mion. At this point, seriously, after all this time, all those little things that didn't quite make sense about Mion until now overwhelmed my mind. Like being questioned about sneaking off into the ritual storehouse, and how she shook the ladder while spouting curses. Who else? Who else could have? Why, though? Why would Mion? I thought back to those things about the Sonozaki family that I heard from Oishi-san and Shion. Mion was always entangled in this instance in a position where she was omnipotent. Some of them information included things that Shion had told me about she disappeared. I madly scratched at my head. Courage, give me the courage. Just a little bit of courage to pick up the phone. I know will ring tonight. It would be so easy to run away. That, though, would be the same as making it easy for them to erase me. I cannot run. I must stand up and face it. After all, the next sacrifice would definitely be me. I was sure Shion would use tricky words to try and trap me. Air quotes, Shion. Be careful, be careful. I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared. I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this. We should have had the cops stay here. At that point, it rang. The phone rang and I didn't know where the phone call was coming. Shion disappeared. Disappeared a long time ago. Disappeared the night after the higurashi. Yet, until today, she had been calling me like nothing happened. Now again, tonight. The people that had disappeared, their corpses simply hadn't been found. I really didn't think they were alive, so if it really was Shion on the other end, then did that mean she was calling me from another world? Of course that couldn't be. A living being was calling me, pretending to be Shion. Shion was long gone, yet as though she were alive and well. The phone continued its incessant ringing. I didn't want to pick it up, if I didn't have to. I had concluded, though, that not doing so wouldn't solve anything. Then, what would I do after I answered it? Would I immediately declare she wasn't Shion and ask who she was? Alternatively, would I pretend I was still fooled and try to grab her by the tail? That would probably be the safest thing to do. What I was most afraid of was the person on the phone would do when she realized I knew she wasn't Shion. However, as long as I continued to let her think I was fooled, she wouldn't do anything extreme, right? If I just make sure to be careful, that should be the safest option. I've made up my mind. I'll answer the phone. Once I do that, I'll talk to her as if nothing happened. That wasn't all I'd do this time, though. I'd scope her out. Who was she? What was she thinking? And what was she after? Why was she doing this? Well, was she really the one who killed Tomotaki-san and Takano-san? What happened to the mayor? What happened to Rika-chan and Satoko? I reached out for the receiver, my arm trembling. There were too many things I wanted to know, too many things I wanted to ask. I was scared. I should start by picking up the phone. Pick it up, Keiichi. Pick it up, Keiichi. Hello? Oh, how relieved I would have been if it hadn't been a call from Shion. Kei-chan, it's me. It's Shion. My momentary convenient, and above all, fleeting prediction was ripped into 1,000 pieces. I couldn't help shaking at this point. Get ready for this. You took a long time to pick up. I thought you weren't home, and I was about to hang up. Sorry, I was just in the bath. Did your family not pick up for you? Could your parents be out right now, Kei-chan? I failed. I let her out a fatal piece of information that I was currently the only one at my house. Well, no, they're not really. Anyway, have you heard? About Rika-chan and Satoko? No. What happened after that? Were they found? Nah, they weren't found. Kei-chan, please don't lose hope. If Oshi-san hadn't let me know, then I might have allowed myself to shed a tear or two at Shion's considerate words. Instead, now that it came to this, I couldn't take her words at face value. This person on the other end of the receiver, the more perfect a Shion they were, the more my blood curdled in fear. Rika-chan and Satoko, they were kidnapped, weren't they? Yes. I don't think there's much doubt. Just how cruel and grave a meaning did those words hold? Their weight astonished me, and then a moment later I was overcome with numbness and felt like I would pass out. I had asked if Rika-chan and Satoko had been kidnapped. Shion, in turn, had answered that there wasn't much doubt. That cruel meaning behind her words. Rika-chan and Satoko were... I'm sorry. About the mayor? What do you think happened after he was kidnapped? Do you think he's still alive? What happened to Rika-chan after they were kidnapped? That's what I wanted to ask, but I frantically caught myself. What if she had given the question a terrifying response in such a way it responded nothing to do with her? I was scared of that, so I immediately brought up the mayor. That said, however, I much talked about the mayor. I think he was killed. Hey, wait. That was quick. I think it must be really hard to kidnap someone and keep them alive like they are. As long as they're not hostages, it would be more practical to kill them once you're done with them. The world started to bend so much as I lost my balance. The scenery in my eyes whirled around and around like the hands of a clock and tried to swallow me whole from below. I frantically put a hand on the wall to support myself. A moment later, a severe nausea welled up within me. How was she saying such things so lightly? Kill them so readily? I mean, what's a human life or two? Anyway, it's a horrible thing, but I think that's probably what happened. If the mayor was killed, then did that mean the same happened to Rika-chan and Satoko? No, that couldn't. They weren't some random old man. It was Rika-chan. It was Satoko. They couldn't kill them so readily. It's probably to think that Rika-chan and Satoko-chan ended up the same way. Screaming noises. Those are the words I wanted to hear the least. And I fought them back with a scream of my own, even though it wouldn't change anything. Still, I still couldn't help but scream. This time the tears flowed. I've been confronted with the most horrific outcome that I've been trying to avoid considering ever since last night, and I cried. There was no longer any doubt that it was my fault. I killed them. I killed Rika-chan and Satoko. I succumbed to the weakness of my own heart and confessed everything to Rika-chan. Also, consider the fact that... But here's the thing. The Shion, when she mentioned that she told the mayor, was like all crying and shit. That's why they were killed. That meant I killed them. When Rika-chan looked at me with those innocent eyes, if only I hadn't given in. Also, if this was somebody else pretending to be Shion, then it means this other person who's involved in stuff only knew about Rika knowing stuff. But then again, it was also because of the lock. In my voice, still I cried. I cried, Kei-chan? Please just try and calm down. Rika-chan and Satoko, they've been killed. That's not helping me calm down. We couldn't even find their remains. I would never be allowed to even apologize to their face. If that was my punishment, then how brutal a punishment it was. I think Shion tried to comfort me, but I didn't hear any of it. What are you going to gain by doing that? They're definitely going to target you and me next. Please, I'm asking you, get a hold of yourself. Please. Please. Shion was shouting, imploring me with a voice that sounded like tears were in her eyes. However, I was coming to hate the sound of that voice more and more. This Shion killed them. I had no doubt that this person killed them. Why? 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 Why kidnap someone and then kill them? Screw curses. Are people's lives really that cheap? Erasing them and killing them without a second thought like this? You're right. You're absolutely right. It would take a demon. I felt like crushing the receiver in my hand. How long did this person plan on acting like it was someone else's problem? There was magma in the pit of my stomach, and it felt like it was going to erupt at any moment. Hey, Shion? Please tell me, why did Hinamizawa start needing someone to die on the night of Takanagashi? That's what I'd like to know. The fighting of the damn project already is over and done with. Haven't enough people been cursed already? Why is it? Why? There's a reason, then say it now. I was incoherent at this point. My emotions had broken through the dam inside me, rushing forth, and I couldn't stop them. These were not simple questions, this was an interrogation. Shion herself hadn't realized it yet. It was just too funny. It was so funny that I couldn't stop crying. I understand how you feel, Kei-chan, I really do. The damn wars ended a long time ago, yet murders and disappearances keep happening every year under the guise of Oyashiro-sama's curse. Why? Why is it happening? Some of them have nothing to do with this, and some of them didn't deserve to be cursed, so why? Why? That's what I'm asking you. I want to know that as much as anyone. Both our ragged breaths could be heard over the phone. Listen, Oyashiro's common curse never existed. It's too unrealistic. Just like you said, someone in the village using the Grand Oyashiro's curse, justification to continue these murders, and disappearance everywhere Kanagashi. They were cunning. They've been using the curse as a convenient tool, and made a system where they would get rid of 2 enemies in the village every year. And this year, the system killed Takano-san and Takase. That's why there wasn't enough. Why did the mayor Rika-chan and Satoko have to be killed too? I don't give a shit about the past. The only thing I care about is why Rika-chan and Satoko need to be killed. Why is that? I didn't say a word to Satoko, you know? Why even her? Why? A silence fell between us. Shion didn't answer for a while. Kei-chan? Please stop being mean. Hick. A sob. Was Shion crying? I don't have any idea what's going on either. Everything changed when we went into the ritual storehouse that night. It was the same for me. As I listened to Shion's bitter weeping, I could feel my agitation subsiding. When I heard that Takano-san Tomitake-san had been killed that night, I doubted my ears. Then I realized it instantly. I realized what sort of position I was in now. The four of us snuck in there. Kei-chan, you and I won't be so conveniently forgiven. When I thought about that, it made my chest so tight. It was so terrifying. You know that feeling, Kei-chan, don't you? There was nothing fake about her words. She even understood how I felt. That's why I confessed everything to Old Man Kimiyoshi. All of us entered the Forbidden Storehouse. It was just a little bit of fun. We knew we shouldn't have done it, but it really had been just for fun. It was only a bit of exploration, that was all. Takano-san and Tomisaki, who went in with us, were killed shortly after. They met such miserable ends. Since the day I've been living in fear when I be attacked. There was nobody except Old Man Kimiyoshi who would help me. So I asked him to save me. Old Man Kimiyoshi, he wasn't mad. He smiled and said, if you're really sorry, Shion-chan, then you'd never be demoned away. I don't know too much about honorifics, but would the old man in that situation use Chan in that situation? He really did smile at me and told me to leave it to him. Shion cried bitterly, recalling the beloved mayor's twisted death. Mayor's death. It was such a sad voice that none who heard it could prevent it from twisting their hearts. Again, I did let my emotions take over. And go off at her? Shion was the same situation. She had should have been my one and only comrade. Thump. My heart pounded. My other self deep within my mind whispered to me, don't forget, Keiichi Mabura. Don't forget about the mayor on the morning after the Watanagashi. He was told of Takano-san's deaths over the phone and committed to a meeting that evening. He went to a hospital appointment. He didn't tell his family. He'd only made it back just in time for the meeting. He went straight to the assembly hall. That's what Oishi-san said. When did you let the mayor know? Hick? Huh? I'm sorry, Shion. It must seem like I'm kicking you while you're down, but I mean, this person would have to be really, really awful to be able to actually fake crying and being emotional. I mean, who on earth would, pretend to cry and be all sad and emotional about stuff in order to manipulate others? That would certainly be a really fucking dick move. Everyone's like, Lunar, you sound a bit jaded by this. Does this remind you of anything personal that really upsets you? Just a little bit. What can I say? I don't like being lied to. Must seem like kicking while you're down, but Shion, you told him, right? You told Old Man Kibiyoshi the mayor. Yes. Hick? When did you let him know? I had begun to get scared of saying it out loud after hearing her sad voice. I wasn't saying it contradictory, though. Besides, if there was a contradiction, then I wanted Shion to explain it to me. Did you know the mayor had a severe case of hemorrhoids and had gone to the hospital for treatment? Kei-chan? What does that have to... Please answer me. If you didn't know, then just say so. There was a momentary silence. Then after stammering a few times, she replied, I knew that. He had hemorrhoids. It looked like sitting down was really hard for him. He was going to the hospital. You know which hospital, right? I'm sorry. I don't know that much, but... Kei-chan? What does that have to do with... Shion didn't know what hospital the mayor went to. That meant it was impossible for her to have gone all the way to the hospital to confess everything. Since she didn't know his destination, then she obviously couldn't have seen him on the train, either. If there was any other chance for her to contact him, it would have been after he came to Hinazawa. The train, however, had been delayed, and he only got back right after the meeting was about to start. He didn't have time. There wouldn't have been enough time for him to listen to Shion to spill the beans. I want to ask you straight, Shion. When did you tell the mayor about everything? When and where? Your answer doesn't have to be precise, but please give me one. Kei-chan, why are you asking that? Hick, as we were still throwing in occasional crying noises. Her sob pierced into my ears. I was taken by the illusion that I was bullying her. Even so, I'll say it. If I'm wrong, then please correct me. Please prove to me that you're the real Shion. It was impossible. The day the mayor disappeared, from dawn until he vanished, there was no opportunity for you to contact him. Eh? The mayor left first thing in the morning for his examination at the university hospital all by himself, without telling anyone, Shion. You just said you didn't know where the hospital he went to, so you couldn't have contacted the mayor until he got back. Isn't that right? Hick? His train back was delayed by an accident, and he didn't return to his house until the meeting was about to start, so there was no time for you to have told him before the meeting started either. I heard Shion repeating her weak sobs. That sort of feminine voice automatically ripped into my heart. It's almost like it's kind of manipulative, what's happening here. Surely no one in real life would be able to do such a thing, and do fake crying and shit to manipulate other people. That certainly doesn't happen in real life, right? It was so painful for me to say it. Shion, did you go to the meeting too? Did you attend it? And tell him there? And if you didn't, then there wouldn't have been any time left. After the meeting was over, the mayor disappeared on his way home. Shion went to the meeting, didn't she? Did she or didn't she? The question was so simple to answer, but she didn't give me an immediate response. Actually, with the meeting, you didn't even go to the part-time job you said you went to that day. I'll say it more directly. You haven't been seen since we were at the library together. Kei-chan? Shion Sonozaki disappeared the day after the Watanagashi. The other end fell silent as the grave. It was so quiet that it was like the phone cord had been cut. I couldn't sense anyone there. Oshi-san says you've been missing. Despite that, you've been calling me every night like this, haven't you? Crying noises. Shion's sobs were torturing me. Still, I'm pretty sure I haven't said anything wrong. Please, Shion, if something I said was wrong, please say so. Shion, I'm begging you. Shion, there's no way you could have seen the mayor, but if you did see him, if Shion ever did have the chance to meet with the mayor that day, then that meant then you saw him after the meeting. In other words, it could have been only right before he disappeared, or else afterward. And now you're laughing. You know, granted, there are some times that I've been a little emotional and cried and started to laugh a little. Hello? But that's a different thing. This is more concerning. One's kind of depression, the other is kind of, well, Hinamizawa syndrome? Beep beep went the tile tone. The eyes thing was a little... I stood there dazed for a while until I realized she had hung up on me. We should probably call the police officer. Kind of glad that part wasn't voice acted. I imagine it would be at the Suzu Mahjong Parlor. Demand the truth. Why was that orange hair? Why is that Rena's hair? The problem with twins. This is not limited to just Hinamizawa, but in Onfushia village. Especially the three families detested giving birth to twins as successors. The long-term dictatorship, built on the precarious balance of the three families, must have feared collapsing under the weight of internal strife from things like family quarrels. According to the literature, if twins were born, then they had to be culled. With that, the very fact that both the Sonozaki family successor, me and Sonozaki are twin, are alive is in itself deeply interesting. Perhaps the current leader, Oryu, is sympathetic. Of course, the twins were not cared for equally, and as their heir, Mion received special treatment. From what I've heard, despite the two of them looking exactly the same on the outside, the talent lies solely with Mion. My own observations of the two of them don't leave me with that impression. Tradition dictates that the leader of the Sonozaki family is said to inherit a demon, and they tattoo a magnificent one onto his or her back. In accordance with the tradition, there is an extremely high possibility that Mion has such a tattoo on her back. Anyone? Hanayama, Baki the Grappler. From what I've heard, there is apparently a magnificent demon tattooed on Oryu's back as well. Then I wonder what sort of tattoo belongs to the heir, Mion. Is it the same exact tattoo? Like, is it like a traditional thing where it's the same tattoo? I really want to see her back. I know this is a bit odd, but would that be weird? Like, you're like fucking her doggy style, and you got that tattoo looking at you? I feel like that would like kill my boner. I don't know. It's not my cup of tea. At the Suzu Mahjong Parlor. Reserved for the day. Suzu Mahjong Parlor. Clatter clack. Hey, Kurchan? You're the last one here. All the youngsters are here already. Excuse me, miss. Oh, Shisan handed over a convenience store bag with a carton of cigarettes in it to the old lady who owned the Mahjong Parlor, and she shrewdly made herself scarce. She was used to this by now. Oh, Shisan, good work today. What were you all earnestly waiting for me? You could have just done 3-player. Everyone sitting at mahjong tables in the small parlor were Oshi-san's subordinates, but there were no tiles laid out anywhere. Everyone, I'd like to thank you for the day's investigation without sleep. Thank you. Energetic responses filled the parlor. Already it had lost the atmosphere of a place of entertainment. The situation is not looking good. The chief appears to have backed down due to Congressman Sanazaki's threats. In the coming days, we'll hand off Takano's murder to the chief of police and give the missing persons case to disappearance to the mayor and the others to community division. That damn upstart chief, the veterans of the room cursed him. All of our requests for warrants were turned down as well. I've even been told our section chief not to go anywhere near the Sonozaki house. We're certainly in a bind, that we are. Incidentally, it looks like I'll be getting orders soon to go training at the Metropolitan Police Department starting next week. After that, I've been told to take a paid vacation to Izu. Well, I suppose that ain't bad. He heard a few dry laughs. It wasn't anything to laugh about, but that was all they could do. This always happens, but incidents are a lot like locking your keys in the car. The keys you need to unlock the door are always locked inside. For cars, you just call JF, and they'll probably open your door. For incidents, Kuma-chan showed the map. Kumatani flipped over the whiteboard. On the back was a map of the Sonozaki premises made with magnets. Now, I've been doing this job for a long time. I've got a lot of faith in my gut, but this could be the one time I was wrong, no? Anyone worried about their retirement money has until the count of 10 to get out of here. Oshan began to count 10, and everyone counted along with him. It was their famous 10-count resolution. 9, 10. And no one's living. None of you love your families too much, is that it? Wahaha. Everybody laughed uproariously, cheering things up. I want everyone to go over their materials. Memorize the locations and blind spots of all the security cameras. Kuma-chan, you'll stand by in the command car. If something happens, you'll switch with me and take over. Komayama-kun will head up the infiltration team A. Atsuki-kun will lead team B. Observation teams will set up at points 1 through 8. Bonchi-kun, you're responsible for keeping a strict timetable. Control your rotation so HQ doesn't get wise. Now the teams on standby has the important job, alright? If a section chief asks where I am, play dumb. Wahaha, I'll handle escorting our guests. I'll probably take him to the venue, so wait patiently, everyone. Wonder if okay. Keiichi Maburo, that is. From what I've seen, we're set for tomorrow or the day after in that regard. It'll be easy. Read all tips, which means we're getting close to the end. Keiichi, just leave him alone. His friends went missing. It must be really hard for him. Normally my dad never shows me any consideration, but this time he did. Shouldn't Keiichi stay home from school for a while too? I think it would be safer not to go to the police until the police do something about this. Maybe. Compared to what could happen, taking a few days off wouldn't be a bad idea. Anyway, how is it logical not to close school during such a dangerous situation? What do those teachers think our children are? Mom and Dad were getting pretty riled up, but at this point I couldn't care less. Besides, that wasn't the only thing I couldn't care less about. The breakfast table, the food in front of me, the time and date, myself, I really had no interest in anything. This feeling was like a dead fog in my mind, and it felt like getting dizzy after taking strong medication. Keiichi, how are your studies going? You've gotten further than the other kids, haven't you? I mean, they're all dead, so definitely much further than... If you have, then you can take a few days off, alright? I didn't even feel like answering. Today was Thursday. Only 4 days had passed since the Watanagashi festival. Such a short time, and now things were completely different. Everything had changed. The tranquil village, bright and clear as if it were an Indian summer, had undergone a total reversal. People were made to disappear every night, and we couldn't even relax. When walking out in broad daylight, the village had become a world of fear. I had no right to curse this outcome. After all, the one responsible for everything was me. That night, I couldn't resist my honestly tiny little and incredibly stupid curiosity and broke the taboo. This isn't somewhere we should be going, is it? Let's not. It's a crime to force your way into a locked building, even if you don't steal anything. Shion, now that you know they weren't having some secret rendezvous, you've had enough, right? I don't want to do something like this. What if Rika-chan dance ends while we're missing around here? I prattled on as I took the lock from Togataki's hands and put it back on the door. I'll forget everything I saw here, so come on. Let's go. Takano-san was fretting, but I pushed her away. Tomotaki-san grinned painfully. Shion's shoulders drooped, as if to call me an idiot. Even so, I didn't care. I pushed everyone further and further away. Rika-chan's dance was still going on. Then at last her dance was brought to a close with a roaring applause. I too, until my hands turned red. I clapped. And I clapped. Ding dong. Isn't that Rena-chan? She's here because it's your usual meetup time, isn't it, she? I looked up at the clock. It was 5 minutes past my time to meet up with Rena. Keiichi, shouldn't you take a few days off from school? You're right. Thanks for being so considerate. I rose from my seat. I went to the entrance to greet Rena. Good morning. We're going to school as a group starting today, so you can't be late. Ah, that's right. If we, the ones furthest away, were to be late, the younger kids on the way would be waiting for us. I think I'm going to take some time off from school. Okay. Rena answered shortly, nodding. I think you should do whatever's best for you, Keiichi-kun, so you don't need to feel that you're weak or anything. Oh, and here. It's a notice they're sending around. Could you give it to your mom? I think it has a lot of important announcements in it. I took the notice. There were a lot more pages than normal. The one on top announced the disappearance of the mayor, Rika-chan Satoko. They wanted any information about them. It made my heart ache. The police are looking as best they can, too. They'll find them for sure. Just be patient. Okay, Rena said, smiling in an attempt to give me courage. Rather than that, though, her smile looked like it was because she prepared herself, she herself wanted to believe they were safe. Rena, you're not going to question me. Nope. Rena, you know, don't you? About the night Do you mean when you snuck into the ritual storehouse? I was speechless for a moment, but then I bit my lip, made up my mind, and nodded a little. So, it's all out in the open. Really, I shouldn't do bad things like that. Mi-chan was really mad, so she was upset. I suppose she would have been. I don't think she was as angry about you sneaking in there, though, as much as about you hiding it from her. Maybe, Kei-chan, maybe you should have told her yourself and apologized. I should have told her myself and apologized. That troubled me. Just 1 week ago, I did something that I myself should have apologized to Mion for. Mion is probably locked in the fucking basement at this moment. He was probably forced to watch Rika and Satoko die in not so pleasant ways. I had hurt her badly, however I hadn't realized that at all. Plus, with all the confusion that Shion's appearance had brought, I still hadn't been able to talk to Mion about it. Rena, you're right. I never realized anything until you tell me. Keiichi-kun, hypothetically, if you had admitted you'd done something wrong right away and apologized to Mi-chan, I wonder if Rika-chan and Satoko-chan wouldn't have had to disappear. I couldn't answer right away. I couldn't admit to that. Wasn't Rena telling me right now, though, that I should have admitted to my crimes sooner? If I had done that and apologized, would things have not gone in such a horrible direction? Rena's eyes were filled with kindness, but they weren't naive enough to forgive me for keeping silent, and they stared fixedly into my own. Yeah, you're right. If I had admitted my crimes sooner, then Rika-chan and Satoko wouldn't have had to die or disappear. Smack. The palm of Rena's hand slapped me in the cheek. I stood there, unmoving. My hand still tilted in the direction I'd been hit. It didn't hurt at all. I don't think that anyone has scolded you, Keiichi-kun, so I'll scold you in their place, right? Okay? I pressed a hand to my cheek, now warm embarrassment, and quietly stared down Rena's feet. Going somewhere you're not allowed to go was a very bad thing to do. Do you understand that? Uh-huh. Answer me with a yes, Keiichi-kun. Yes. Also, what's even worse, you didn't admit to having done something so bad. You should have never done anything bad in the first place, but not admitting to it or apologizing for it is much, much worse. Yes, I was wrong. For a few moments, Rena stared at me silently and intently, as if gauging my remorse. Then, finally, the tension in her face softened, and she smiled. Okay, then. It's about time. I should be going. All right. Be sure to give the notice to your mom, okay? Also, warn her not to go out to pass it on after it gets dark. I bent down to pick up the notice, which I dropped when she slapped me. The pages had come out of the class and were now making a mess on the floor. I gathered up. My hand stopped at a single, more light-hearted page, with peaceful sentences dancing on it. We still have plenty of homemade soy sauce in stock. Feel free to come to the Sonozaki house if you want some. What is this? I picked up the page and scanned the rest of it. They were stockpiling high-quality soy sauce they got from faraway relatives at the Akita prefecture. They had gotten a big shipment recently. They couldn't use it all, so they wanted anyone who wanted some of it to feel free to come over, is what it said. As the PS said to arrive in barrels, and to please bring a 2-liter bottle or other container for it. That's how it tied together. If you need some soy sauce, then you would go to the Sonozaki house, Rena. Did you know all along? Yeah, I knew. Rena had already been suspicious of Mion as soon as she noticed that the big bottle of soy sauce was missing. Riga-chan had taken the bottle and gone to Mion's house, and there she was erased. Riga-chan wasn't coming back, so Satoko called Mion's house since she knew where she had gone, and then Satoko got called there as well. Okay, this is... So you're saying you suspect Mion. Also, will Mion be at the school? Also, the implications of saying I should have admitted to stuff sooner, that would also mean that I'd be getting disappeared myself, so... And then, of course, Mion got angry at me for going out of the woods like that, worried I would get disappeared. It's like, what's happening? The meeting on the day the mayor disappeared, didn't Oshi-sensei 3 families participated in it? Would include Sonozaki family. Didn't he also say the current leader was really old, so her heir Mion briefly stood at public appearances? While the mayor was returning from the shrine, Mion called out and stopped him. She talked to him and invited him to their house, and then... she made him disappear. It was probably even simpler to make Shion disappear too. Or at that point, Shion pretending to be Mion. The answer is, I don't remember. Shion was part of the Sonozaki family. They probably knew exactly what she was doing at times. I'm sure they even knew part-time job schedule too. Think about it, wasn't the Agent store managed by the Sonozaki family? Setting up the ambush for her there? Wouldn't have been any trouble at all. Or ambushing Mion at her toy store. I'm going to Mion. I'll go apologize. I'm going to have her put an end to everything. Mion probably won't forgive me easily, but I'll go and ask her not to sacrifice anyone else. With that decided, there was no need for me to be lazing around here. I put on my shoes and slipped past Rena to exit the house. When she stopped me, I'm going too. Rena, shouldn't you go to school? This is way more important than school. Rena, you shouldn't come. If you get wrapped up in this too, then I think I might actually go crazy. Rena didn't move her arm, which was blocking my way. If Keiichiro disappeared as well, then I think I might actually go crazy too. So I won't let you go alone. Rena argued boldly as tears welled up in her eyes. I saw them and I knew the strength of her resolve. All right, let's go. Thank you, Rena. Rena nodded slightly but firmly, and finally let down the arm block. What if we had gone to visit Mion yesterday when she was late to going to school? Let's go to Mion's house. I'll apologize for the crimes I've committed. Then we'll put an end to these twisted days. After that, I'll pray that once more we can return to those fun, lively days. With Rena following me, I left the house. In front of the house, there was a car waiting. It was Oshi-san. Hey, good morning. I'm busy. To you too, Ryuga-san. Together so early in the morning, you make me jealous. What a truly praiseworthy man he was. If he had been lying in wait so early in the morning just to pressure me into talking. On this morning, though, maybe this was actually a good opportunity. You're from the police. Oh, have I not introduced myself to you, Ryuga-san? Please excuse my rudeness. My name is Oshi from the Okinomiya Police Department. Pleased to meet you. Are we telling Oishi-san? Yeah. I think my palm is enough punishment for your crime, Keiichiro, but we should leave Mi-chan to these people. Pain and sadness. I looked down as though the emotions filled my heart. We have something to tell you, Oshi-san. Well now, what about? Should we stand here and talk, or go inside the car? In the car, please. I only continued to look down weakly. All I could do was be thankful for how dependable Rena was. It's certainly not like Rena could pretend to have a Shion or Mion voice, right? She's not like a ventriloquist. She's not Jeff Dunham. At Rena's urging, I revealed everything to Oshi-san. The latter, while making sure to throw in murmurs that he was paying attention every now and then, took notes. We continued that way for a while. How do you feel? Don't you feel a lot better now that you've told me? Oshi-san asked this while scratching his head with his ballpoint pen. Of course, I don't feel better. The price of what had been paid up to now for me not owning up to my crimes had been so immense, but as long as that payment wasn't returned, the load of my chest could never be removed. His radio started to emit static. This is Kumatani. Oishi-san, over. Yes, hello, this is Oishi. We got news a few minutes ago that she's been absent from school. No movements in the Sonozaki house. Our target is still on the premises. Yes, good. Keep a close watch. Roger that. Out. Cars 3 and 7 just arrived for support, and we've returned to base. Also, I think the division chief is looking for Yoshi-san. He keeps annoying me too, even though I keep telling him I'm trying to get in touch with you. What should I do? If you're our person to answer, tell him you're actually under orders not to wake me from my morning nap. Got it. The radio got silent. Sorry about that. It was about work. He just said there was no movement at the Sonozaki house, didn't he? Oh my, did it sound like that to you? This won't do. Please keep that a secret, all right? I don't have permission from the division chief to be making private inquiries like this. Oshi-san has suspected Mion for a long time. Nor for questioning witnesses or for searching houses. We don't have permission for anything, really. The Sonozaki house's defense is said to protect the family. Members are also in full working condition. Without a warrant, we can't do anything about anything, unless the crime happens right in front of us. Oshi-san? Could you be... Rena's tone of voice was enough to make her spite clear. She stared at Oshi-san. You can't set foot in the Sonozaki house. Were you trying to get Keiichi-kun to go in there instead? Rena, that's... What do you mean? This person, just as I thought. He plays really dirty. Stop, you're hurting my reputation. That said, I'm all ears to your explanation, okay? Oshi-san lit a cigarette and responded to Rena, wearing an expression implying he was calm and willing to let her comment slide. You can't get a warrant, but you've always had your eyes on Mi-chan because you thought she was suspicious. Yes. You plotted to incite Keiichi-kun and have him go to the Sonozaki house. Then if something were to happen to him, you would have used that as an excuse to go in. Isn't that right? I only understood half what Rena was saying. I knew, however, that Oshi-san had been trying to use me. That's fine. I'm okay with this. Even if Keiichi-kun got hurt as a result, have you no shame? Is this how the police do things? My. It seems we have an incredible detective on our hands. Oh my. Would you be interested in taking our exam? I'd gladly write a recommendation letter to get you into the detective division. You're despicable. Rena spoke quietly, her words dripping with hostility. I've been insulted in all kinds of ways in my life, but one or two words from a young girl is always the roughest for me. Even so, I suppose I should thank you for not arresting Mi-chan yet. Don't mention it. Oshi-san seemed to be enjoying his exchange with Rena. The things this man thought were like a swamp I could barely see past the surface. It reminded me again of how much I disliked him. Now then. As two esteemed friends of Mion Sonozaki, what do you plan on doing now? Will you wait kindly for me to go over to the evidence and request a warrant? No, we won't wait for that. We'll go and make Mi-chan surrender herself. That's right. If she turned herself in rather than be arrested, she might get a lighter sentence. At this point, perhaps that was the only pity I could find it and me to afford her. I see. I wonder if it will go that way. Well, if you're careless, you two may face danger, you know. Oshi-san was measuring our resolve, so in a strong voice I declared, We're fully prepared. Oshi-san gave us an unpleasant, yet seemingly satisfied grin. It was then that I realized this old man was trying to use us for his own convenience. If anything should happen to us, use that as an excuse. Though my greatest hope is that you will surround the place so that the criminal can't get away. Ryo-san, you're good at negotiating too. I'm throwing in the towel. I surrender. But what are you talking about? If the policemen surround Mi-chan's house, then that will be insurance for the worst case scenario. For the worst case. Plus, it would be another way of pressuring Mion to give herself up, wouldn't it? Oishi-san and Kuma-chan. Oishi-san and Kuma-chan. This is Kumatani, go ahead. Our two friends are going to play at the Sonozaki house. Make arrangements so that we can reinforce them if needed. Roger. Sleepy noises. There, I know, zzz. Their altogether too short conversation implied that our questioning was already a part of their plans. Then, let's get going. Want to buy some tea biscuits on the way there? Neither Rena nor I went along with Oshi-san's stupid jokes. Oshi stopped the car at the place where we always waited for Mion. Come to think of it, I've never been to Mion's house before. I've only heard it right down the road. This is as far as I can take you. According to our information, there are quite a few security cameras set up on the premises. Still, don't worry. I've got a bunch of youngsters ready and waiting to slip past them and go in. We'll be monitoring the inside with a one-way mic, so if you two give a loud scream, we'll know right away. We'll persuade her for sure, so please be ready for her to turn herself in. In both her eyes was determination. It was the only method available to us for lightening the sins of our good friend, who was probably locked in a fucking basement being impersonated by her sister. Be plenty careful, you hear? You probably don't believe it right now, but I don't want you two being sacrificed if at all possible. You're right about that. With that rude response, we left the car. The clinging humidity and the voices of cicadas greeted us. I'd never have expected this would be happening today. Let's go. Keiichi-kun. Rena took the lead and began to walk. Down the road I'd never been. Rena, you've been to Mion's house before, right? Yeah, a few times. It's a really big house. You can fit a mountain into her backyard, too. You can pick mushrooms and stuff, and there are fences everywhere. Big enough to fit a mountain. That was amazing. One of the three families controlling Hinamizawa, and the head of the family, the Sonozaki clan. Perhaps there was something to be said about its magnitude. The path continued onward, level and uneventful. There were metal fences all along its edges, and beyond them were woods with trees growing thickly. The fences were high. The tops of them bent inwards, sticking out like sharp spears. Plus, there was dangerous-looking barbed wire wrapping them. No one could look at them and not feel intimidated. In addition, there were signboards hung up here and there along the fence. Private property of the Sonozaki family. Entrance forbidden. Beware of venomous snakes. Active security cameras. Intruders will be charged an entry fee of 1 million yen. This forest, or should I say mountain. Is this all their yard? It's more like their domain. As you can see, it's private property, but nobody maintains it. The forest isn't really the kind that you go hiking in. She could say that again. It really did feel like a neglected savage woodland. It was dark and damp, and certainly not a forest that made you want to go for a nice walk. Maybe that's just what happens when a landowner has too much land. Like Oshi-san said, there were security cameras hung up all over the place, though they had been weathered by wind and rain, casting doubt as to whether they were even functional. I wonder if Mion is watching us as we come to her. I don't think she is. The only people living in Michan's house are generally her and her grandma, after all. There's nobody to watch the cameras. What a useless security system. Well, Michan's father seems like a pretty tough person to get along with. So when everyone in the family is getting together, the cameras are apparently working properly. That's right. Mion's father, he was a big shot yakuza, wasn't he? Rena smoothly danced around the answer as she explained. At last, a huge gate, as big as I'd imagine, appeared. Was she living by herself with her grandmother in a house with such a grand gateway? I wonder if she's here. Beep! The old buzzer made a dull sound. Was it cut off in the middle and not getting to the house? We waited long enough without response for me to start thinking like that. However, we finally heard footsteps walking through the gravel and on the other side of the gate. I nervously balled my hands, my palms now sweating into fists. There was the clang of a bolt being released and the gate opened slightly. The person peeking out of the gap was none other than Mion. Well, this is unusual. Aren't you two going to school? Mion didn't seem all that surprised at visitors arriving in the morning, which wasn't a normal time. In fact, she almost seemed relaxed, as if she knew we were coming beforehand. We stayed home today. Kei-chan is one thing, but you too, Rena. You two are such troublemakers. Mion smiled lightly in the way that Mion we always knew did. Well, let's not just stand here. Come on in. She gestured for us to follow her. I hesitated for a moment, looking at Rena. Let's go. Rena smiled cheerfully, as if she were passing through the gate of a good friend's house, and then did just that. I rallied myself and then go through the gate too. On the other side, it hadn't been maintained well, but it was clear that the lot was magnificently wide. It wasn't quite what you'd think when you hear a mansion, but it was very clearly a vast place. Was this the first time you've been here, Kei-chan? Well, that's a problem. Was. Everyone's like, maybe it's just poorly translated. Maybe, but I really doubt that the people in charge of translating this game would have been careless. Was. The real Mion would know if I had ever been here or not. Saying, heck, even if she said, oh, is this the first time you've ever been here? Whether it's was or is, but the main point is this. The real Mion would know if I had ever been here. I don't know why I'm circling her boobs. But I don't even need an eye tracker. Like, where are you looking? Boobs. But anyway. Then we made a joke about doing back shots on a fucking demon back earlier. That'll probably be the thumbnail for the next video. But yeah, this gives it away. This question. The real Mion would have no reason to ask that. So you're Shion. And Mion is in the basement. Next to her dead grandma. And her dead Satoko and Rika. And more than likely at the little meeting, Mion probably already knew about me and everybody going in there. And Mion confessed to the mayor. And Mion asked to protect the mayor. I mean, to protect, you know, me and Shion. Yeah, this house is enormous. But yeah, you gave it away. You're Shion. Steep thatched roofs aren't in fashion anymore. This place could be a tourist attraction. I want to rebuild it using totally average and boring reinforced concrete soon. Mion dryly smiled as she said that, then closed the gate and relocked the heavy bolt. Don't worry about it. Things have been dangerous lately. Gotta do at least this much during the daytime. Yeah, you're right. Maybe it was my imagination, but I thought I saw a hint of a shadow in her smile. Well then, good sir and madam, I shall show you inside. Please come this way. Mion bowed to us like a worker at a high-class hotel, then pivoted on her heel and began to walk. Rena gripped my stiffening arm lightly. Keiichiro, you're too tense. We came to see Mii-chan, remember? You don't need to be that nervous. That's right. When I get nervous, I tend to let everything show on my face. I'll stop tensing up. Even if something worse were to happen, there were two of us. Oshi-san's subordinates waiting outside the gates for us, too. There was nothing to worry about. After thinking about it that much, I realized my nervousness was already gone, and laughed at myself. What's this? Mion? What's with this stone on top of the newspapers? It's in the way. There was a pile of newspapers on the floor entrance, and there was a large rock on top of them. I didn't understand why something like that was here. Rena noticed me looking questioningly and giggled. Rena, do you know? What is this? Some kind of good luck charm. If you don't really know, then feel free to move it out of the way and put your shoes there. Ha ha ha. Cage-kun, there's a nest of swallows right above that stone. Oh, so bird poop. Oh, you're right. This house is for people, but swallows still come in without permission to make nests. It must be like a tradition for them. Whenever spring comes, they make a nest here. It's kind of annoying, though. In other words, it's a sign not to take off your shoes here, because swallow poop will end up in them. I couldn't help but laugh at the silly contrivance. My laughter naturally spread to the other two. A really long time ago, the Sonozaki family apparently cultivated silkworms. Our ancestors would get all worked up over exterminating the swallows. When you think of it that way, maybe this is our just desserts. Anyway, come on in. The inside of the house wasn't very bright at all. It was dimly lit, in fact, but mysteriously I could still feel the elegance to the place. Mion seemed to want a more modern building, but traditional houses like this aren't bad either. You're kidding, right? There's a terrible draft, the winters are freezing. Don't go making my house into property of cultural significance and getting in the way of renovations. Got it? What I want most is a house like yours, Kei-chan. I'm pretty jealous of it. It seems like it would be warm in the winter. Oh, but snowfall seems like it would be a problem. Snowfall's a problem. Does Hinamizawa get that much snow? Our latitude is south of Kanto, isn't it? Isn't this region warm? You don't know, Keiichi-kun. Hinamizawa is an area that gets heavy snowfall. When we get a lot, everyone gets buried. Sometimes you can't even get out of your house. Sometimes your car gets totally buried too, and you can't find where it is. I wasn't aware of that. Hinamizawa was that bad of a place in the winter? Don't worry, we'll all be dead before then. So, heck, I don't think any of the time loops ever make it to winter. Come to think of it, my dad, he said something like, this place got plenty of snow so we could have fun building igloos. Still, your front door getting buried? Not being able to find your car? That's way too much snow. You remember from geography class, right? The western side of Japan gets cold winds from Asia. We're different from those softies protected by the mountains. Nice and warm by the Pacific Ocean. I'm totally okay with being a softie, and nice and warm. I hate the cold. Wahahaha. We'll have to have a training camp to get Kai-chan. Kai-chan used to the cold this winter then. No way. There's no way that's happening. I hate the cold, and I hate training camps too. I hate them even more than put together. Mion laughed more uproariously than she ever had, then told us she'd bring out some tea and left her seat for the moment. Still, there's a lot of fun things to do in the winter. I bet our club will be a blast then. Our club at continue activities through the winter sounds totally horrible. One of our club Okay, to be fair, 2 of them are dead, the other's in a basement, and a third person who is her sister is pretending to be her. And we're both probably going to die. And then, time loop going to occur. Like swimming in the cold or marching in the snow. When do we turn into Mount Redhorn? Though it also reminds me again, at the very start of the very first chapter of the game, the first game, Onakakushi. The very first lines was I was on like a car ride or a train with my dad, and I was like sleepy, and I was having a dream where someone was like apologizing to me over and over and over again, saying, I'm sorry. Yay, time loops. Like I said, I would like it if there were games like this that I was not aware of the... But even then, even if someone suggests a game to me, obviously you're suggesting it for a reason. It must have some sort of, twist to make it, air quotes, interesting, right? Otherwise you wouldn't be suggesting it. It's kind of like you're suggesting somebody watch Higurashi. Obviously, there's a reason for that. And then obviously, if you're someone who's watched Higurashi, you're like, hey, I want to emulate like Higurashi. Well, obviously, you're already expecting it to have that, the other shoe drops sort of scenario. Where both the genre shifts and, the mood, to where it goes from happy slice of life to manic, smiling yandere slice of life. Basically, when it goes from, just normal, like, chill, calm story to murder, suspense, horror. Basically, when it goes from super, super calm to super, super horror. Yeah, there are definitely a lot of tough punishment games for the winter season. One time she made us have a Rio carnival in the schoolyard while snow was falling. I see the terror of our club cared not for the season. The victor would be decided by who could best adapt to the winter-only events. We do snowball fights and shaved ice cream and treasure hunts in the snow. Wait, why is everything outside? Why can't we play tabletop games in a nice, warm room while it's snowing? That does sound cool, though. Hang out with some friends, maybe in a cabin, or just in a nice, warm house with one of the few times I'd be okay with having the blinds open. Obviously, windows still closed, so it's still warm. I don't want to fucking freeze. But just sitting around drinking some hot cocoa and playing some Magic the Gathering, listening to Tool, or playing some Halo co-op, or playing some Dungeons and Dragons. And heck, I think that's probably the best thing about the Dungeons and Dragons type game would be the idea of who you're playing it with. It's not about, yes, it's cool to be throwing the dice and trying to beat monsters, and obviously I really like the lore and stuff when it comes to those. I have a lot of the old books, and I do feel like a lot of the lore books recently, when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons, kind of ruin it because everything went super fucking woke. But I really like the old style, like 3.5 edition Dungeons and Dragons. Just looking at the pictures of the monsters, reading the stats, reading the lore. That's fun. But when it comes to the idea of playing the game with other people, I don't think it should matter caring about what you do in the game at all. It should just be about hanging out with friends. There should be no urgency to the game whatsoever. It should just be a bunch of friends just chilling. The idea of any sort of type of punishment game sounds really stupid, and I don't like that. But I would say the idea of just sitting around playing some card games or playing board games with the Sonozaki twins and Rena and Rika and Satoko doesn't sound bad. Provided that, it doesn't devolve into people getting murdered or tortured. Whoa, Cage-kun, if you're saying things like that, then you're going to lose a lot of this winter. We'll have you're going to lose lots of punishment games, and Renan won't lose. How? Don't give me that, how? I settle things with a cross chop to the head. You're sure having fun. Our walls aren't very thick, so be careful not to go flying through any, okay? The paper sliding door opened as Mion returned with a pot and a complete tea set. Do you want sesame seeds on your rice? Sorry, we don't have much in the way of bean paste or other good stuff. It's okay. How do you not? You're fucking... how do you not have the normal things that would go with rice? It's your normal staple. It would make sense for me not to have it because I don't normally eat rice. In fact, I think it's been months since I even cooked any. We didn't really come here to drink tea anyway. And with those words, the smile disappeared from Rena's face. Ah, she did it. That one careless statement reminded us that we had nearly been able to forget. I'd wanted to enjoy this peaceful time for a little longer, but we put an end to that with Those honestly careless words. When she noticed the smile disappear from Rena's expression, Mion too changed hers. It was as if the cheerful air that was a warm spring day until a moment ago had slipped through the cracks in the paper door. It's probably why you shouldn't have doors made out of paper, and altogether disappeared. There was no point in regretting it now. We did not come here today to chat and enjoy ourselves. Mion silently poured the tea. During that time, both Ren and I sat kneeling without uttering a word. I really like the existence of chairs. Here you are. Drink up. We couldn't even mutter a word of acknowledgement, those natural words of courtesy. There's no poison in anything. Do you distrust me that much? That's upsetting. Mion gave a bitter smile at that and let her shoulders droop. Lots of ellipses occurring. We all remained silent. We remained silent, hoping that someone else would speak up first. That was, however, the one thing we didn't want to do, and so we sat for a long time. At last, Mion smiled scornfully and opened her mouth to speak. Hey now, Kei-chan, Rena, you're the guest. Didn't you come here for something? If you don't speak up first, this old man won't know what to do. Ren and I exchanged glances, and we both resigned ourselves. Rena opened her mouth to speak first, so I stopped her. Keiichi-kun, it's okay. I needed to come here. Let me talk first. Okay, I understand. What would Kei-chan have to tell me? Please give me your daughter's hand in marriage, maybe? Ahahaha, can't do that. My little Rena and Kei-chan aren't meant for each other. Go wash your face with miso soup and try again later. Afterwards, I thought her mean remarks were Mion's way of showing her consideration. Mion had said those mean things in totally normal voice, and it drained the tension from my shoulders. Mion, first, I have something to apologize for. You do? What for? Mion pretended that she didn't know what I was talking about, but I'd clearly gotten my point across. Well, on the night of the Watanagashi, the ritual storehouse behind the shrine, I went in there. I could see Mion's expression immediately become harder. I knew it was somewhere I wasn't supposed to go, but it was just supposed to be a little bit of exploration. We didn't mean anything by it. Even so, I still shouldn't have done it. So I apologize. I'm sorry. To display my deepest sincerity, I pressed my forehead to the table. I'd meant it as a way of prostrating myself. I figured it wouldn't feel sincere enough if I raised my head right away, so I left it there on the table for a while. Mion didn't say anything. With my face down, I couldn't tell what sort of expression Mion had. Only the voices of the cicadas filled the room. Mixed with them, I could hear the sound of the clock ticking. That was all. When I started to struggle to breathe from having my head down for so long, Mion told me to stop. You got me there. I didn't expect you to pitch it to me straight. You've got me on the ropes. I looked up to see Mion's face was calm, but she was smiling faintly. If you understand that even though it was only a casual exploration for you, Kei-chan, that there are a lot of people who think it's no laughing matter, then it's okay. There's an old saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. It's been days since then. It may be too late, but I apologize. What I did was wrong. Please forgive me. I could feel pitiful tears welling up within me. If I had done this sooner, maybe nothing terrible would have happened. It's okay. If you know what you did was bad, then that's enough, right? Mion spoke like it was someone else's problem, and I wasn't happy about it. Mi-chan, Keiichi-kun is apologizing seriously. I think maybe you should respond seriously as well. Maybe as well. I am being serious, though. Do I not look serious to you, Rena? You don't. Rena was giving her tit for tat, and so the room's atmosphere quickly began to grow sharper. She was right. Even though I came here to speak from the heart like this, it felt like she hasn't been taking this seriously. Obviously, Rena isn't fond of that. Keiichi-kun, You can get up now. Let's tell her everything. That looks like what Michan wants too. I had known it would turn out like this from the very beginning. Hadn't I come here prepared for that? I mustered my willpower and bit my lip. Mion? You called Rika-chan and Satoko-chan the day before last, right? I don't remember doing so. If you have a reason to think so, could you let me hear it? It was evening before dinner time. Rika-chan should have come here, bringing a bottle of soy sauce to have you share some of her. Mia was trying to keep from showing any reaction, but I didn't miss her eyelid twitching just a little bit. Well, I think what happened is, I think at that point Shion had already, kidnapped and imprisoned Mion. And more than likely, Shion didn't know people were going to stop by for fucking soy sauce. She's not used to living here. Shion probably broke in, killed Grandma, locked up Mion in the basement, and then began to impersonate Mion and was probably calling me from Mion's house. And then when Rika showed up unexpectedly, she had to kill her. But then, of course, Satoko knew where Rika went. So she obviously couldn't have anybody know. But that also means that the person giving all those orders to go look for, the person who went with me to the Furude Shrine to look for Rika and Satoko was the one responsible for their disappearance in the first place. Which means when Rena went to go get Mion, or call her, she was talking to Shion, who was on the phone, after Shion had already killed Rika and Satoko. And then Shion, pretending to be Mion, came with us and pretended to look for Rika and Satoko. Why do you think that? It's not hard to understand, Mi-chan. You saw it too, didn't you? Rika-chan's room? Mion put a finger to her forehead and acted like she was thinking. There was chilled tofu, but no soy sauce. Plus, the big bottle of soy sauce that should have been under the sink was nowhere to be found. What? Is that why she would have come here? Mion dropped the act. You wrote it yourself on the notice, didn't you? That you'd share your soy sauce? Mion wrote it, but Shion doesn't know that. Same as Shion doesn't know it was my first time being here. Mion scratched her head. This is not a good expression to have during this conversation about our missing friends. I heard her ever so faintly click her tongue. It was as though we found out she'd purposely given too little change to a servant. That's all I could feel from her. Then Mi-chan, you... Rika-chan? You erased. You hit her. Rena hesitated for a moment. I could tell she didn't want to use the word erased and that she was struggling to find another word. That was really supposed to be the end, wasn't it? For you, anyway. What are you talking about? You didn't foresee that Rika-chan would tell Satoko-chan that she was going to your house, did you, Mika? Oh. So Satoko-chan showed up by herself when Rika didn't come back. Then Satoko-chan called. Might Rika be imposing on you? Yeah, probably just like that. You sound just like her. Mi-chan, you were in a bit of a bind then, because someone knew that Rika-chan had come here. So you decided to lure Satoko-chan here too. Lure her out? This is not the expression you should have when someone is making the accusation that, you murdered people and then you lured somebody else here. This is more like you're getting off on this. Like how, I wonder? Mion prodded Rena on as if trying to get to the good part of an interesting story. I, however, knew I had been watching Mion change the whole time. She was restlessly twirling her fingers. She had clearly lost her calm. Of course, it was really a slight thing, and only I, who had been watching her this whole time, would have known. Mion was panicking. What Rena was saying must have been a bullseye. It probably went like this. Sachiko, I actually made too much dinner today, so why not come over and eat? I wonder if Shion is going to fly over and just stab Rena. Then again, the story goes through so many timeline changes to where like everyone stabs everyone at some point. So why not come over and eat? Rika-chan came earlier and already ate some. Something like that. Scratch. Mion's nails dug into her knee. Heh. There's no recordings of the phone conversations or anything, so how do you know that much? I know it because the dinner Sachiko-chan made for the two of them was plastic wrapped in the refrigerator and hadn't been touched. For a few moments, Mion's face was frozen in utter amazement. She looked like she couldn't believe that this person in front of her was Rena. And here's another thing. I feel that the real Mion would have known that Rena was actually this deductive, but Shion probably just thought, oh, she's just some stupid ditz. But here's the thing. Very few people are what you first see of them. Like, there's so much more to them. You know, people are not fucking one-dimensional fucking Ned Flanders. Heck, it's a fucking term, Flanderization. It's even been done to Goku. To where originally, Goku isn't romantic with Chi-Chi. Not because he's not romantic, but because Akira Toriyama didn't want his story to be about romance. He wanted it about action and about comedy. He also did not think he was a good writer when it came to romance. Now, obviously, I don't know. I don't know what kind of romance novel Akira Toriyama would have written if he had actually tried to seriously write a romance novel. I personally think he would do a much better job than me and most authors. Not that I count as an author to begin with. But I will say this. Akira Toriyama wrote Goku the way he did in terms of not being romantic with Chi-Chi for three reasons. One, because he wanted his story to not be about romance. He wanted it to be about action and comedy. Two, he did not think he would be able to write a good romance story. And three, well, that and the more explicit things would be issues when it comes to, you know, the rating the show would be given. Plus is also knowing your audience. You know, while many people who do love Dragon Ball Z probably also love many slice of life and romance stories, heck, many of them probably like shows like Date A Live. It's even got a dating sim game based off it. And I'm sure many people who like Dragon Ball Z also like that game. But I'm pretty sure all of those people, as much as they love games like Date A Live, don't watch Dragon Ball Z for that kind of content. It's like, I like spicy food and I like chocolate, but the idea of both being mixed together is disgusting. Now don't get me wrong, I do look at hentai of Dragon Ball Z characters. Heck, I've looked at quite a bit of Futa Bulma. Nice big titties and everything. But, in general, anything officially made by Akira Toriyama, I wouldn't want hentai to be in it. Now, some fan service here and there, that's cool and all. But again, I wouldn't want it to be the main focus. I'd want the main focus to be about, you know, the action and the actual point of the show. Heck, I think that's what a lot of people disliked about GT, is that it took so long to get to like the Super Saiyan 4 and that stuff fights. Like, there was so much just traveling around with Pan and Trunks in space, which in of its own right wasn't bad. It's just, it's not the same as saying, you know, watching a fight between Goku and Cell at the fucking Cell games. You know, they're both good. It's just, it's not what you're there for. It'd be kind of like you go to a restaurant and you order the best, most delicious steak in the world. and instead you're brought the best, most delicious fish in the world. That fish is still delicious and wonderful and the greatest fish in the world, but it's not why you're there. Same with DBZ. Slice of life and romance stories are awesome and incredible. Even hentai is incredible. But that's not what you're there for when you come to DBZ. And so Akira Toriyama stayed to what his audience wanted. There are so many people that just love the really cool fights. Heck, imagine the action sequences and a lot of really good choreography when it comes to the fighting. That's what people are there for. A bit of comedy, too. And like I said, the slice of life and romance stuff is good, too. But that's just not why people are there. And even people that like those shows don't really want that in their DBZ. There are exceptions, but again, we're talking about the vast majority. Now, of course, a lot of people... Heck, it was also like Goku was played as being dumb. But here's the thing, Goku was never dumb. It was just, why would you expect someone who is like a teenager living in the fucking woods to know fucking calculus? It was just not supposed to be important to the show. And of course, it eventually got played up over and over as some major trait of Goku's, but really it was just something that was supposed to just not be paid that much attention to, but yet eventually was played up over and over just for a cheap laugh to make Goku look stupid. Same thing with Goku not being romantic with Chi-Chi. It wasn't that Goku wasn't romantic with Chi-Chi initially, it was just that the story just wasn't about that. Heck, how many sitcoms are there out there in which you don't see any romantic things really happen between the people who are married with each other? It's not that romantic things aren't happening, it's just that that's just not the age range that's watching it, so it's omitted. But it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Like, what are we talking about? Object permanence? The idea that if you're not seeing it, it doesn't actively exist? Or even the idea that if you don't see it, it must not exist. Like here's the thing. Take Star Trek. Obviously, Jean-Luc Picard is fucking people. And having tons of sex. Just because you don't see it in the episode doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just means that that's not why you're watching the show. Same way this. Just because you're not seeing Goku have fucking hardcore sex with Chi-Chi doesn't mean they're not having sex and they're not romantic. But of course, over time people took that, and even all future writers who joined into this show started writing it that way. Main point being is this. Just because you don't see something in a show doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just means it wasn't considered important to the show. Forget what we're talking about. Oh, right, the one-dimensional stuff. With that, just to go on, how did you even guess what we said over the phone? You're admitting it. That's an admission. But here's the thing. Ned Flanders was originally supposed to just be your average guy next door to Homer. Yes, he went to church, but that was just a piece of who he was. It wasn't supposed to be his whole personality. But over time, it kept getting played up more and more for content and for laughs. Until Ned Flanders had been reduced to nothing but an overly religious individual. Same thing with Goku. And many other characters. There's many characters that get played up at just their one side. In just a little bit of the game we've played here, not even counting what people who are familiar with this show and have watched the anime, many characters have more to them. Yes, it's very convenient to look at a character like Goku or Ned Flanders and in a one-dimensional way. And in many times, they get written that way, which I feel is a bit lazy. And the question is this, am I criticizing the people writing Dragon Ball Z? And to a degree, I'm saying yes. My criticism is this. I feel they did Goku wrong. I feel that Goku should have had more depth to his character. And again, people say, oh, he has plenty of depth. And I'm like, yes, I agree. But I'm saying that a lot of the way it's written, it writes Goku to sound overly stupid or not at all romantic to Chi-Chi at all. And again, I'm not saying I want scenes of him like fucking Chi-Chi and shit like that. I'm just saying I kind of feel like they wrote him in a way that made him look very one-dimensional. Made him more of a caricature of himself. And I feel that both in video games, anime, and real life, a lot of times people take for granted that people are not one-dimensional. And if a character is written well, whether it's a game or an anime, people are not one-dimensional. And having a person who's not one-dimensional makes them feel more real because, in the end, they are real. It's a long explanation, so I'll get to the point. The contents of the refrigerator provided a vivid account of what you said over the phone when you lured her out. Mion's jaw remained on the floor. That was the only way I could describe her face. Until it changed. That's laughing. I had no idea I had such an incredible detective right next to me the whole time. I can't believe you'd figure out everything down to the phone conversation just from what was inside the fridge. And here's the funny thing. The real Mion would have known that because she's known Rena. She would have known Rena well enough. But Shion would have never known if I had come to this house before. Shion would not have known Rena that much. Because at the end of the day, Shion's hardly ever seen or talked to Rena at all. There was that one time at Angel Mort. And there was perhaps a time at school where there was an impersonation, but Shion wouldn't know. You've got me there. You've got me. You've got me. Ha 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 ha. As if a dam burst, Mion convulsed in laughter. Her laughter, though, definitely didn't make us want to laugh as well. Ha 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 ha. Mion grew tired of her dumb laughter. Heaved a big sigh and scratched her head. It almost seemed like Mion had lost a detective punishment game for the club or something, and her punishment had been decided. Oh, how fun that would have been if it were true. An incredible detective, Mi-chan. You're the one who guessed what Ooshi-san told us. He called me an incredible detective, too. As soon as she heard Ooshi-san's name, Mion's eyes began to display panic more clearly, so that anyone would be able to tell. Mion? The police have suspected you for a long time now. Ooshi-san's officers have had the house under observation so that they could break in at any time. Mion attempted to feign calm, but it looked like she was having a hard time with that. Part of her couldn't believe that the police had her surrounded, and she could closely examine Rena's facial expression. However, she couldn't detect a hint of falsehood. Finally, Mion seemed to accept the fact that the police were encircling the house. Was the mayor? Mi-chan, too? Were Tomitaka-san and Takasano? You as well? Mion didn't answer our rapid-fire questions. I could clearly see impatience in her eyes, which was still feigning calm. At last, Mion, who had been sitting there lazily, readjusted her cushion and sat herself upright. At that moment, the atmosphere in the room changed completely. Mion's expression also changed. The impatience and wonderment in her expression disappeared, and she became so solemn you would think she was about to conduct a tea ceremony. I could sense it, as the picture is slightly getting darker every moment. It was now in this moment. Also, is it just me, or is her smile very, very gradually becoming less? Like, I felt like her smile was more curved at the start of this, and I feel like it's getting more flat. Like, I feel the picture is gradually getting darker. Like, it's less saturation, less brightness, and I feel like the smile is getting more flat and eventually is like curving the other way. But it changed into Mion Sonozaki, the current heir to the Sonozaki house. The solemn atmosphere about her was clearly abnormal, and was entirely different from that of Mion that I knew. Now, I could believe it. Now I could believe that she was the young leader who commanded the entire Sonozaki clan. Mion quietly placed both her hands on the tatami mat and gave a beautifully elegant bow as if this were really a tea ceremony, and named herself. We meet for the first time. I am the current heir to the Sonozaki house. My name is Mion. Mion's movements were so elegant that they could cut, and we couldn't even answer her. All Rena and I could do was watch, baffled at her actions, which we could never imagine the normal her doing. I'll be back. I have to go pee. I would like to welcome you to the Sonozaki main house today. I will greet you in place of our leader Oryu. It seems as though you have various things you would like to ask. If I could be of any assistance, I would like to answer without concealing anything. What? What did Mion just say? Mion said she would answer anything we asked. There was a strong light of resolve in her eyes. It's really all right if we ask anything then? I shall tell you everything I know. That is why you have come here after all. Ren and I exchanged glances. There was a mountain of things we wanted to ask Mion. However, we hesitated for a moment on what we should ask first. The first question Rena gave was extremely abstract, but it was the question everyone wanted to know right now. Where is Rika? Why? Why would you do this? That was what I wanted to ask as well. Why would you do this? I didn't only go for Rika-chan and Satoko. I went for the mayor, Takano-san, and Tomotaki-san as well. No, even further back for all the incidents that have been occurring every year. For a while, Mion couldn't respond. Right away, when we realized the question was too vague, and tried to put it in more concrete terms, she finally opened her mouth to speak. To answer that question will take some time. If that is acceptable, however, then I would, by all means, like you to hear it. She spoke clearly. She spoke with a clarity that a grandmother might use when telling a story from a long time ago. Do you know that Hinamizawa village used to be called Onagafushi village? Rena nodded lightly and then shot me a glance asking me if I did. I returned her nod. Hinamizawa was once called Onagafushi village, yes. I heard all about it that night from Takano-san in the ritual storehouse. They firmly believed that demon blood ran through their veins and cut off all contact with the outside world. They were worshipped by those in the village at the foot of the mountains and treated like transcendents, those capable of magic. That's right. Our ancestors of Onagafushi village were proud transcendents descended from the demons. Those in the villages at the foot of the mountains worshipped and honored them. Nevertheless, that all decayed with the end of the Tokugawa era. The black ships arrived. The era of the samurai ended. The era of national isolation ended. And the tradition of worship at Onagafushi village quickly disappeared. Those things that linger from the past were all to be detested. That was the kind of era it became. The Meiji era began, and the name Onagafushi village, with its long history, was forcibly exchanged to Hinamizawa village. I have heard the Meiji government strongly wished to erase the old customs, the abolition of feudal domains, and the establishment of prefectures. An era had begun, seeing Japan sprinting up the stairs that was beyond their means to try and reach the same level of the rest of the world. All things in Western style were to be extolled, while old traditional things were to be scorned. That was part of the sort of era it was. Our ancestors of Onagafushi village were proud transcendents descended from the demons. The Onagafushi village disappeared in a flash. At last, Japan, provoked by the great European powers colonizing countries in Asia, one by one began a policy to increase its wealth and military power so that it could stand as a global power in its own right. Conscription began, and they won war after war. The first, the Sino-Japanese War, and the Russo-Japanese War, until the Pacific War broke out. They recklessly climbed the staircase toward modernization. At the time, Onagafushi had already lost its impenetrability. The villagers once worshipped transcendents were now on the receiving end of inhuman treatment. The sacred Onagafushi village had been groundlessly labeled an isolated village of those afflicted with incurable diseases, a mere shadow of its former self, and stood on the precipice of an era of hardship. Thus began the harsh days where one would suffer unreasonable discrimination just because people knew one was from Onagafushi. The children in the village at the foot of the mountain were taught not to go near Hinamizawa because filthy germs were rampant there. Children who would come in contact with children in Hinamizawa would cry and wail as their parents purified the spot they were touched by rubbing salt on it. One of the adults said to the children that if you got lost in Hinamizawa, you would be kidnapped by demons or cut up in pieces and devoured. Never ever go near the terrifying village of man-eating demons. That's what he taught them. Another said that during a famine long ago, the people of Hinamizawa gathered up all the corpses they discarded into dry riverbeds and then cooked and ate them in order to survive groundless stories, but said in such seriousness. Baseless slander added to baseless slander, making Onagafushi village historically accurate, thrilling history all the more believable. Perhaps the chain undue discrimination was a manifestation of people's anxiety towards the uncertain times. Of course, the story didn't end only with the perspective of children. If anyone found out you were from Onagafushi, you would be turned down from any job you applied for. People would even go back on engagements and marriage proposals. As for marriages, where one partner who had lied about it, as soon as the truth got out, they were made to divorce. It even caused trials. They would appeal that where one came from wasn't an important enough reason to divorce. They would, however, lose their case. Lying about one's birthplace apparently constitutes a heavy act of misrepresentation in marriage. That's terrible. I've heard about such discrimination toward those in small villages and civics class. Just because others knew you were from a tiny hamlet you would be subjected to every societal disadvantage that was a modern form of bullying. Though I only memorized that because it was going to be on a test one time. I recalled being suspicious about it and unable to believe such discrimination occurred in modern Japan. Well, I suppose I can't say that they weren't asking for it. Our ancestors were proud of the demon blood flowing through them. They lived their lives boasting about it, scorning those at the foot of the mountain after all. They struck fear into the villagers down there with their mystique and demanded gifts of dread and tribute. With that, Mion smiled for the first time, albeit in self-mockery. During the Pacific War, despite the slogans that all the country was acting as one, those from Hinamizawa continued to suffer all manner of discrimination. There were too many ways to count. They would send their husbands and sons to war, and the women at the home front would suffer greatly too. My grandmother remembers it well. She remembers it being a difficult time. Even that bitterly long war, however, finally ended in 1945. Hinamizawa had lost many male hands. Remember, the story takes place in the 80s. So technically, Keiichi, technically this would have occurred, Keiichi at this moment, I wouldn't be born for another 6 years after this conversation is taking place, and sons return to them. It'd still be younger than my parents, but still. Of course, there were also many who didn't come back. Nevertheless, for those in Hinamizawa, or would they? Barely able to maintain the village without the men, their return was a very happy thing. MacArthur's GHQ set to work on drastically improving mindsets and strove for the abolition of unfair discrimination. They could feel day breaking on the dismal night that was the previous era. Hinamizawa was on the verge of turning into a ghost town. Those in the village started to say that they should rebuild it once again and got to work, trying to make the village into even more plentiful. During that time, someone appeared who built up a fortune through a vast number of dealings in the black market. That was Mion's grandfather, the husband of the elderly current family leader, Sohei Sonozaki. Sohei said that he managed food warehouses in Harbin after being dispatched to the Chinese mainland. When it was time to pull out, he conspired with his superiors and comrades and stole a great deal of the army's canned goods. He hid them somewhere in the Seto Inland Sea and sold them widely at a high price on the black market, thus earned a fortune. Sohei didn't spend that fortune for his own pleasure either. He entrusted the entire amount to his wife, the head of Sonozaki House. Let's revive this ruined village. All who live here are our family, and this fortune ours collective property. So he proclaimed to my grandmother, the current head of the family. That vast fortune was a huge reason why Hinamizawa was revitalized after the war. I see. With that, Hinamizawa came back to life, and that's how the Sonozaki family had established its current prosperity. Of course, there were many people who begrudged the money coming in from the black market, but the villagers no longer minded it. They succeeded at one business venture after another. Those who had succeeded freely supported those who followed them. The giant family Hinamizawa, tied together with the strong bonds, kept on expanding its influence. The Sonozaki family, the center of everything, would be extolled for a long time as the minds behind Hinamizawa's revitalization. The person in the middle of all was your Nana, Nii-chan. That's amazing. What a great success. Mion looked like she was honestly happy Rena had praised her. However, around 1955, the wind started blowing in the other direction again. Because of the canned flesh incident, canned flesh. It sounded so hideous that just hearing it made me nauseous. Someone naming himself as my grandfather Sohei Sonozaki's superior confessed that those canned goods had been human flesh. Hinamizawa, a village in which demons lived and ate humans. They were just about to wipe away the cursed stigma. The light that had finally started to see in their peaceful lives grew hazy and disappeared. The shocking truth, as revealed by his former superior, the stolen provisions from the old Japanese army that had been a huge cornerstone of Hinamizawa's revival, had been canned human flesh. Why were there cans like that? Wasn't Sohei just the manager of a food warehouse? His superiors revealed that Sohei Sonozaki did not have the job managing the food. In reality, Sohei's job during the war had been to exterminate pestilent mice and to transport corpses of those infectious diseases. It had been unfair treatment, and all because of the lowliness of his origins. And as a result, though, he had returned safely without having been sent to the front lines or being detained. Perhaps that was the only fortunate thing to happen to him. Finally, Sohei was enlisted as an assistant to act as a military medical institution. There, however, he found something even worse than low scorn, depressing customs of Onogufushi village. And the research they were carrying out, could that have been? Well, you know, the bacteriological corps in the old Japanese army or whatever. Cage-kun, you've heard of that? What could it be? It was pretty sure it was Unit 731. Oh, that's actually a real-life thing. You can actually watch YouTube videos on this. It was a nightmare unit that devoted itself to researching terrifying bacteriological variants to break the deadlock in the war. They used many innocent people as fodder for human experiments. They methodically observed how many days a new strain would take to kill the new victims. How many days it would take would be injected. How many days it would take when swallowed. They dissected many people to find that out. Sometimes they wouldn't even bother waiting until they were dead and dissected them while they were still alive. They would strap them into centrifuges while still alive and crush them with decompression chambers while they're still alive. And when a live human decompresses, all the holes in their body get pushed outwards, and their intestines get pushed out their anus like a snake winding out of it. I have a feeling I saw something like that on a documentary one time. That makes me sick. And they still hate Hinamizawa, huh? You said it. Mion agreed with me, giving me a faint, sad smile. It wasn't much in the way of communication, but for some reason, I was happy to have it right now. The unit Sohei was in did way kinder research than that. They were researching concrete methods for reducing the difficulty of delivering food on the battlefield. The military's designs at the start of the war completely fell apart, and a chronic food shortage broke out all over the battlefront. The food shortage led to malnutrition, and as their natural resistances lowered, the soldiers fell to one disease after another. Spirit and morale lowered, as they wouldn't be able to maintain their forces at this rate. Apparently that's where their research started. At first, it was to find methods delivering food to the battlefields. It was very broad and included finding things violent methods, like stealing from citizens, to survival methods, like how to cook unfamiliar insects and plant life. As they were working out the details, they kept straying off course and going out of control until finally they knocked down a door called Taboo. What do you think the easiest source of protein on a battlefield is? Ren and I knew the answer without being told. So we didn't answer. That's right. They were researching ways to handle using humans as food. Fighting onwards, sometimes eating the flesh of enemies and sometimes that of allies, became the ultimate service paid to their country. They were definitely serious about this doctrine. It really is a riot. My grandfather was despised as someone who ate human flesh, and yet they had gone above and beyond that. Apparently he always thought about it too, even if he was a vulgar man-eating demon. They were far more ugly demons than he, so no matter how much he was scorned, he wouldn't put up with it. At last, they had a handful of test prototypes. When the soldiers learned it was human flesh, however, the scientists couldn't make anyone eat it. So it was apparently sent to the front lines. The cans were labeled meat substitutes, and so they wouldn't have accidentally eaten it themselves. They stamped the bottoms with a circle. The starved soldiers on the front lines apparently loved all the prototypes they were sent. Among them, those who cooked it in soy sauce, like it was sukiyaki, loved it the most. Come on, Miya-chan, stop. I'm getting sick to my stomach. Rena really was pale-faced, and she looked like she was having difficulty continuing to sit on her knees. Mion looked like she had more to say, but sighed lightly and stopped there. Then, those canned goods your grandpa brought back then? I don't know if it's true. Sohei denied it was human flesh up until the day he died. However, those who begrudged Hinamizawa's sudden revival called him a savage for making a fortune for selling human flesh, and the villagers began to be scorned again. They returned to a time where children would be jeered at and have rocks thrown at them. The stifling silence came back. What a seriously hopeless and sad story it was. They discriminated where discriminated against, discriminated where discriminated against. Why must they attach worth and rank to it? Why can't they live without looking down on people? Why can't everyone just enjoy life together? I didn't know. My grandmother, the family had once told the children of the village this. If they throw a stone at you, then 2 of you must throw stones back. The children asked her, what if they threw stones at 2 of us? Of course, the answer was simple. If they throw stones at 2 of you, throw them back with 4. If they chase 8 of you with 6, then drive them off with 16. If they slander 30 of you, yell back with 60. Finally, the children asked, what if we're attacked by 1,000 people? Even the answer was simple. If 1,000 people attack you, then everyone in Hinamizawa will stand up against them. It was a manifesto to spur people into action. My grandmother rose up, not only as a leader of Sonozaki House, but as the mother of Hinamizawa. It was halfway through 1955. It was a time when riots over the treaty with the U.S. were rampant. A time of battle and action. The people of Hinamizawa joined together and fought, treating unfair discrimination towards one as a crime against them all. It didn't matter whether that one was a child or an adult. If they heard that a child had been told off, then everyone would crowd the house of the perpetrator, acting as a whole. If there an adult had been treated unfairly, men and women, young and old, would all band together, would stand up against it. If you meddled with the people from Hinamizawa, you would be in trouble. They probably figured that if they could make others think that, they'd win. Kei-chan, do you remember how many people came to help you when you got involved with those delinquents in town? Again, you shouldn't know this! I recalled how much of an impression it had left on me. That the people of Hinamizawa boldly came to my rescue, yet the people of Okinomiya averted their eyes so they wouldn't get involved. My grandmother fought, and my parents carried on the fight. At last, peace returned to Hinamizawa. Of course, that peace had been placed on a razor's edge. When you consider the previous 100 years of history, the tranquility now can only be called a chance interval, standing on unyielding. I think it's Steven Pinker? Steven Pink? Angels of Our Better Nature talks about this very thing. Stand at even scales. Why? Could I really have an opinion on such a long, difficult history when I hadn't moved here more than a year ago? Yet I said it anyway. Why can't everyone just live in peace? What happened to those old stories Oyashiro-sama that I heard from Takano-san? Man and demon join a hand and live together in harmony. Didn't Oyashiro-sama remain in this world to watch over that? It's a fairy tale. I mean, that's even if those people and the demons were real. The Oyashiro-sama who meditated between wasn't. Is that why Oyashiro-sama's curse happens? A cool gust of wind blows in from outside, fluttering Mion's long, beautiful, clear hair. Mion kept a refreshing smile without answering, and didn't even change her expression, but even that became a silent answer. So that Hinamizawa village might once more be like Onogufushi village, so it may again be a sacred existence worthy of worship. That was the earnest wish of our ancestors in Onogufushi, and the mission of those who inherit the demon in the Sonozaki main house. Those who inherit the demon? For generations, the Sonozaki family has had a custom of including the character for demon in the leader's name. If you write out the name on your hand, it should appear plain as day. I trace out the word for Mion in the palm of my hand. Oh, she's right. The character for demon is in there. Not only in my name either. The demon is engraved on my body as well. When she said that, she quietly rose and began to lay her hand on her clothing. It's okay, Michan. You don't need to show us, okay? Thank you. With just the exchange, I guessed what she meant. Most likely, somewhere on her body, there was a permanent seal, such as a tattoo or marking, that proved that she was inherited the demon. Mian didn't sit back down. She smoothly opened the paper door onto the porch. A refreshing breeze began to cleanse the damp air filling the room. Maybe we needed to see that fucking thing. Mian quietly gazed out the quiet yard for a long while. On her shoulders was something I could never imagine the normal Mian carrying. It was the heavy, truly heavy history of Hinabazawa and of Onikafushi weighing down on them. What kind of words could I possibly say to a Mian like that? Rena wasn't saying anything to her either. Only the voices of cicadas drowned out by the silence. At last, after a long period of nothing, Mian murmured. The serial incidents happening over the past 5 years. I was directly related to some of them, and indirectly to others. Some were not the Sonozaki family, others related to the Kimiyoshi family and the Furuta family. I think I was at the center of all of them. She said it all without turning around, with her back to us. At some point, her tone of voice had gone back to being the Mian we know. I have faith in what I have done, and don't feel any guilt. If I did, perhaps it would be that I would have decided to leave the stage before the heir is decided. If I am caught and tried in court of law, then I suppose that's how it works nowadays. Being able to retire with Hinabazawa at the most peaceful it's been in 100 years could be the happiest thing that's ever happened to any of the Sonozaki leaders of the past generations. Mian leaned a shoulder against the paper door, then slid down it and flopped on the ground. It was an act of such resignation that just seeing it made me hurt inside. The numerous terrible crimes Mian had been a part of suddenly began to fade from mind. Hey, Mian? I don't care what happens after this. Can't you just try to struggle as much as you can and try to run away? As soon as I began to think that way, Rena's ringing voice filled the room. But Rika-chan and Satoko-chan, you killed them, didn't you, Mi-chan? The sharp points of her words stabbed into my chest despite not being directed at me. I'm not saying that it's okay if you killed other people. Regardless, Mi-chan, you killed Rika and Satoko-chan. Rena's words were more biting than I had ever heard. Even now that we knew all the heavy history pressing down on Mian's shoulders, she had criticized her for killing our friends. Just as I bear the duty of the Sonozaki family, Rika-chan bore the duty of the Furuta family. That duty was to protect the ritual storehouse. My chest tightened. I learned around last year Rika-chan had said something about it. The bars of the storehouse were too heavy for it. She wanted to change them for simple lock and key. Even the priest before her had complained about it being heavy. He was very aware of how hard it was for Rika-chan. I will make sure to guard it. So, I want to replace the lock with something lighter. I replied on the behalf of the Sonozaki family leader. Ever since the string of freak death incidents, there seem to be people who are insolent toward Oyashiro-sama. So you shouldn't replace the lock with a simpler one. That said, the leader of the Kimiyoshi family, old man, if it's that difficult for you, Rika-chan, I think it's okay to replace the lock, he said. The very fact that it was locked with the key was an indication of it being somewhere you mustn't enter. There's nobody bad enough to break through it and go inside, he said. Even if we were all alike as leaders, I couldn't find it in me to argue old man Kimiyoshi, since I owed him so much. In the end, we decided to change the lock on the storehouse and switch it to a really cheap light padlock. Old man, is this really alright? Nana says that if possible, we should keep the lock the same. It'll be alright. You're quite the worrywart. If something happens, this old man will take all the responsibility. Do you promise? You mean that you will take responsibility as the leader of the Kimiyoshi, right? You should be well aware of how sacred the things inside really are. It's okay. There aren't any bad cats in Hinabazawa who would open the lock and break in. Meow meow. Oh. Sobs escaped from my mouth. Something hot and wet dripped down in spades and fell onto the tatami mat. I had already heard of the thieves entering the ritual storehouse during the Watanagashi festival. There were 4 of them. We decided to act within the day. At the same time, we needed to demand that the ones who allowed the thieves to break in, Rika-chan and Fruta-chan, the old man, take responsibility. My tears dripped and drooped. Dripped and dropped. Until just now, I had decided that it was Mion's fault, that she killed Rika-chan and the others. That was wrong. The one who killed them wasn't Mion, it was me. I might as well have killed them. Keiichi-kun, I had a chance to stop this tragedy from happening, yet I didn't. Cheap curiosity got the better of me, and I didn't. If at the time, if I had stopped us from sneaking into the ritual storehouse, Rika-chan and the others wouldn't have had to die. If I had, then nothing would have happened. We'd be spending our days having lots of fun like we always did. I was an idiot. If by shedding tears I could take all back, then I would have filled up the room with them. However, such a meager act wouldn't be enough to redeem myself for the crime I've committed. Kei-chan, you're not at fault. Mion gently began to speak to me, as if trying to reason with me. As the leader of the Sonozaki family, I needed to act, but given the history of the Sonozaki family, thinking about it now, it's no big deal. Maybe I should have saved my friends, even if it meant casting all that aside. I yielded to it, and that's why I killed those 2. I, Mion Sonozaki, and nobody else killed them. I had hundreds of chances to stop it, but I didn't stop. I gave in to the easy role that was handed to me, and abandoned all thought of fighting for my friends. So, this is my crime. I killed them. Mion Sonozaki with these hands. Killed them. And nothing whatsoever changed. Nothing. Laughing noises. Her masochistic laughter was sad, especially because Mion boasted in the club that she would turn the tables on whatever predicaments presented themselves. It was so painful. Still, Mi-chan, you saved one person of your own volition. Eh? As I looked at her surprised, Rena stuck her finger right at my forehead. You left Keiichi-kun alive? As strong as you are, Mi-chan, it would have been no trouble for you, but you didn't kill him. That's right. Mion was so cunning that nobody could stand up to her, even at our club. If she had seriously tried to kill me, I would have been dealt with on the very first night. So many people have been sacrificed, but I was always left out in the cold. When did I first realize it? Even though people were disappearing, one after another, for some reason I had this vague belief that only I would be left alive. Why didn't I kill him? As a demon, I can't even begin to guess. Maybe Mion had some reason she didn't want to kill you. What is that supposed to mean? Shh. Mion put a finger to her lips to say that Rena didn't need to talk. Is Oishi-san waiting outside? Yes. Any way out? No. They said they have the place surrounded. Seemed like they had called a lot of cars over the radio. I think they have your entire property surrounded. Mion fell silent. Rena's merciless words felt cruel, but they weren't meant to be. Maybe they were trying to lessen her good friend's pain, if only by a little. Maybe they were considerate, like she was trying to help. Please. Turn yourself in. Mia didn't open her mouth, but she smiled just a little. We'll go with you. We'll never leave a friend by herself. Crying children and Rena are the only things I can't beat. Haha. She rose, scratching her head. Her face had returned entirely to that of the usual Mion. I'm well aware of how serious my own crimes are. Even if they accept me turning myself in, I'll probably never be able to come back here. We'll visit you. I couldn't say anything. But at the same time, you also did kill. Mixed feelings. The number of deaths Mion's involved in was just too large. So much so that maybe recommending she turn herself in was, in a way, extremely cruel. So, I'd like you to hear one last selfish request. What is it? 30 minutes is fine. I have something to show you in the basement. Just let me have some time alone with Kei-chan.